the antidote, golden. You're so golden. I don't wanna be alone. You're so golden. You're so golden. You're so golden. And I'm out of my head, and I know that you're scared because hearts get broken. I know that you're scared because I'm so open. You're so golden. I don't wanna be alone. You're so golden. You're so golden. You're so golden. And I'm out of my head, and I know that you're scared because hearts get broken.
Baby, I can feel it up in your kisses. It's like honey. Sweet like some demon or rockets on what you feel trying to do. Leaving it on your tainted in the pain. Grows inside me. It's enough to leave me crying in the rain. Love you forever, but you're driving me insane.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to this very special international forum on GCED, Global Citizenship Education. It is a first, and we are very happy to welcome high-level speakers with us, people that have traveled from far and wide to be with us today, and also many students, many young voices that came from Tyrol and Salzburg. Some of you are from Vienna, so we are represented as a very strong and hopefully very active crowd. I'm happy to recognize in the audience the former president of the Austrian Republic, Dr. Heinz Fischer. I'm glad to recognize Claudia Plackholm, State Secretary for Youth of the Austrian Chancellery. I'm happy to recognize His Excellency Ambassador Ham Sang-wook, Permanent Representative of Korea to the United Nations. I would also like to draw your attention to Lydia Ruprecht, Team Leader for GCED at UNESCO. And of course, by no means last, in my short introduction, Dominik Regester, who is the representative of the Salzburg Global Seminar that is hosting us today. This forum couldn't have happened was it not for the partnership and collaboration of important partners. One is, of course, the Ban Ki-moon Center. I'm Monika Fröhler, and I'm the CEO of the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens. Secondly, this is possible because the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea helped us to organize all of this. So a big thanks to the MFA of Korea, who have a strong take on global citizenship education, also in this age of AI and climate change in rapidly changing times. And third, again, the Salzburg Global Seminar has immediately collaborated with us on this important topic. And as you might know, you will hear later on from Dominik probably a bit more about it, we are embedded in a week of education think tank kind of endeavors that you will conduct over the coming week on civic education, but also global citizenship education, and we are curious what will come about. The Salzburg Global Seminar is an entity that has a long-standing tradition of gathering people like you, being a platform of advanced thinking, of good contemplation, and of course also of innovative thinking. So we are very happy to be here. Thank you again to Martin Weiss, who unfortunately can't be with us today, but Dominik, you are with us. So again, a round of applause to Salzburg Global Seminar. Now, today we hope to have a couple of very interesting engagements in panel sessions. First, we will have an opening segment. We will then hear a keynote, and we will later on break into groups for panel sessions on policy thinking on GCED, university work, tertiary education work on GCED, but also young changemakers activities on global citizenship education in the age of AI and the climate crisis. Education, I don't need to tell you, I'm preaching to the converted, is key to the fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement. It will be essential for our planet, it was essential in the past, and it will be ever more so with the given challenges that we currently face. Before I give the floor to the opening speakers and ask them to come up on the stage, I would actually also like to thank Show2Go, which make this possible for us today on a technical side with cameras and lots of technicians in all of the rooms. So please give them a round of applause for making it happen. Just to let you know, we have people who traveled from Korea, Canada, we have people joining from China, the Netherlands, the UK, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Austria, and even Sierra Leone today with us. So a wide variety of thoughts and of hearts and minds. Our full program of today, and I hope we can have the QR code up on the screen, can be accessed via mobile phone QR code. We didn't want to waste too much paper, so please do scan it and check out the overall program should you not have it already ready at hand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, time to officially open this forum. Let me welcome the opening speakers to take seat on the podium. Dr. Heinz Fischer, 11th President of Austria and Ban Ki-moon Center co-chair. We will also hear Claudia Plackholm, State Secretary for Youth in the Austrian Chancellery, Ambassador Ham Sang-wook, Lydia Ruprecht, the team leader of GCED from UNESCO, and Dominik. Please do take your seats. And dear Heinz, before you can get settled in your chair, I would ask you, dear Heinz Fischer, to come and open for the first time the Global Citizen Education International Forum here at the Salzburg Global Seminar.
Monika, gut gemacht. Honorable Ambassador of the Republic of Korea, dear Secretary of State, Mrs. Plackholm, dear Monika, of course, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. I'm very happy to see a proof of the work of the Ban Ki-moon Center. Monika, as the CEO, is the driving force behind our activities, but part of the whole team is here doing a job which is not easy, but the starting yesterday evening and now is very satisfying and inspiring. It is my honor and my great pleasure to welcome all of you at this international forum, and in particular at Schloss Leopoldskron. It has an important role in Austrian history. People who lived here were having lots of impact on Salzburg Festival, on Austrian culture, and even on politics in a tragic period, I mean the year 1938, and the fact that Hitler seized power in Austria. Many thanks to the Korean government, represented by the ambassador, as well as the Salzburg Global Seminar, represented by Dominic Register. My dear friends, besides my current function in the Ban Ki-moon Center, I have a long-standing relation to the Salzburg Global Seminar, which was founded, as you know, in the year after the end of World War II, or in the years after the end of World War II, by professors and students from American universities. As Minister of Science and Research in Austria in the 80s, in a time where some of you may even not have been born, 83 to 87, I had a special relation to the Salzburg Global Seminar. I was invited for lectures or invited to participate on meetings, and I'm still proud of two institutions, the Alpbach Forum in Tyrol and the Salzburg Global Seminar as platforms for intellectual discussions and dialogue in Austria on an international basis. As we stand at the crossroads of rapidly changing world, and the world is always changing, the importance of education in shaping global citizens cannot be overstated. In times where challenges are increasingly global, cultivating a mindset that values diversity and inclusivity and considers the bigger picture is not just desirable, but it's imperative. Global citizen education, GCED, as we have the tendency to make shortcuts in every institution, is exactly that. At its core, global citizenship education seeks to empower individuals with the knowledge, the skills, the values to navigate a complex and interdependent world. It encourages values such as critical thinking, empathy, and shared responsibility for the well-being of our global community. And every individual is important, not only the numbers, the individuals, the destinies. As we discuss the transformation power of a global citizenship education, let us not underestimate its role in shaping future leaders, change makers, and advocates for social justice and human rights. GCED is a tool to equip individuals, especially young people, with the ability to appreciate diverse perspectives, celebrate cultural differences, and collaborate across the globe. Therefore, it empowers individuals to become active participants in addressing global challenges, from climate change to the problem of poverty, to gender equality, promoting a sense of agency and commitment to positive change. And they are all formulated and included in the SDGs. I personally have a particular relation to the SDGs because they were decided in a time when Ban Ki-moon was just in the last part of his period as Secretary General, and I was in the last year of my function as President in Austria. In these days and months and years, we can see with particular clarity how important it is to learn and to be able to analyze developments from different perspectives and to see the difference between a good argument and a bad argument, or no argument. The war in Russia started against Ukraine, but also the extremely difficult situation in the Middle East with the brutal and murderous attack of Hamas against Israeli citizens, and the hard answer of the Israeli army causing a great number of civil victims on the other side, gives the basis for numerous acts of this disinformation and needs a lot of capacities to come as near as possible to the truth. This is a very difficult task, but it is a necessary task, or at least closer to the facts and to balanced picture. Dear friends, so I look forward to the discussions ahead of us, the insights we will share, and the collaborative spirit that defines fora such as this. Let us explore how education, coupled with a global citizenship mindset and guided by the principles of responsibility, can propel us towards a better future for all. I thank you very much for participating in this meeting, in this conference, and I wish you the best results. And we step now into our program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heinz Fischer. The next speaker that I'm allowed to announce is someone who joins us virtually via video statement. It's no one else but Ban Ki-moon himself, the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, who is also a Ban Ki-moon Center co-chair.
Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, dear guests, and most importantly, dear students, Guten Morgen nach Salzburg. I'd like to warmly welcome all to the International Forum on GSET under the umbrella of the Salzburg Global Seminar with the generous support of the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Allow me to start by sharing a personal story that underscores the transformative power of education. In the 1950s, UNESCO provided textbooks and educational materials to impoverished, war-torn Korean children, including myself. These materials not only enabled my early education, but also sparked my curiosity about the United Nations as a whole and instilled in me a profound sense of solidarity. Since then, I am proud that the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens, together with UNESCO and SDSN, is a part of Mission 4.7, a global effort to achieve SDG Target 4.7 on global citizenship education. This initiative highlights the critical importance of education in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. This is of utmost importance in an age of climate change and rapid technological developments. Dear global citizens, global citizenship is not the mere catchy phrase. It is a continuously evolving concept and a mindset that actively champions ideas and actions that benefit all of humankind. In a time when the climate crisis affects the whole planet and when technological advancements like artificial intelligence are changing our lives profoundly, we need to re-examine the importance of our responsibilities as global citizens and how education needs to adapt to the rapid changes. Let us focus on our shared humanity, transcending national and personal interests, and advocating for peaceful solutions. In conclusion, I applaud your commitment to global citizen education. Let us collectively work towards a more equitable, peaceful, and sustainable world, leaving no one behind. Thank you. Danke schön.
Thank you, Ban Ki-moon. As the next speaker, I'm allowed to introduce Claudia Plackholm, State Secretary for Youth at the Austrian Chancellery and obviously part of the government of Austria. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, dear Mr. President Heinz Fischer, Your Excellency, dear Mr. Ambassador, distinguished guests from all over the world, dear global citizens. I'm honored to be here today and to discuss about the importance of global citizenship education with you. As we all know, the world is a complex and changing place. We are facing a number of challenges. Challenges like conflicts all over the world, climate change, and poverty. And in order to address these challenges, we need to be global citizens. But what does it mean to be a global citizen? It means to understand that we are connected all over the world, regardless of nationality, religion, or culture. It means being committed to work together to create a more just and sustainable world. Global citizenship education is essential for preparing young people to meet the challenges of the 21st century. It teaches them knowledge, skills, and values that they need to be active and engaged citizens. But what is global citizenship education about? In my view, it is most important about critical thinking. Global citizens are able to analyze global issues in a thoughtful and considered way and develop their own opinions. They are able to evaluate information from a variety of sources, especially when millions of videos are streamed through social media. It is even more important to find the difference between what is real and what is not, between what is fake and what is the truth. Secondly, global citizenship education is about intercultural understanding and about empathy. Global citizens are able to understand and appreciate different cultures. They are able to see the world from different perspectives and build relationships with people from different backgrounds. Global citizens are able to put themselves in the shoes of others, even those who are different from them. They are able to understand and share feelings of others. And as a third point, global citizenship education is not just about teaching young people about the world. It is about empowering them to take action to make a change in the world, to make a difference. They are not passive bystanders. They are active participants in shaping a better future for all of us. Global citizens are committed to identifying problems and developing solutions to address global challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, global citizenship education is not just about teaching young people about the world. It is also about helping them to develop the skills and the values they need to be successful in life. And there are some specific examples of how global citizenship education is making the difference in the world. First of all, in education, global citizenship can help young people to develop an interest in global issues, to take action on them. It can help to develop critical thinking and intercultural understanding, which can be essential for success in an increasingly globalized environment. In work, as a second focus, global citizenship education can help young people to be successful in a globalized economy. It can help to understand cultural differences and work effectively with people from different cultures. And it also can help them to advocate for social justice and sustainability. And as well in entrepreneurship. Global citizenship education can help young people think like an entrepreneur and to be successful. It can help them to identify and capitalize on global market opportunities, and it can also help them to develop ethical and sustainable business practices. These are just a few examples of the many ways that global citizenship education is making a difference in the world. And I believe that this focus on global citizenship should be a priority for governments and for educators. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to all the participants of this forum for your valuable contributions and for your active engagement. Your presence here today demonstrates a shared commitment to promoting global citizenship education and to empowering young people to become active agents for our future and for the change we need in future. Your insights, your ideas, your experiences are essential for shaping the future of global citizenship education and ensuring that it remains a powerful force for positive transformation in our world. Together we can create a world where global citizenship education is not just an option, but a necessity for all people, by fostering their understanding of global issues, their appreciation for diverse cultures, and their commitment to social justice. We can empower them to build a more just, sustainable, and peaceful world. So thank you very much once again for the invitation. Thank you very much for your participation and for your commitment for global citizenship. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam State Secretary. As next opening speaker, I would like to welcome Ambassador Ham Sang-muk, the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea to the United Nations in Vienna. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for the kind introduction. The Excellencies, distinguished participants, friends and colleagues. It is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to you all to the International Forum on Global Citizenship Education in this lovely place. My heartfelt thanks go to the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens and the Salzburg Global Seminar for orchestrating this remarkable event. Thank you, Dr. Fischer, for your devoted contributions to global citizenship. I also express my particular gratitude to State Secretary Ms. Placom for joining today's forum, not only as a representative of the Austrian government, but also as one of the exemplary figures of young change makers. Friends and colleagues, today's world is facing multifaceted challenges. Many countries are experiencing severe natural disasters due to climate change. Armed conflicts and violence in various areas around the world continue to exact a high human toll and threaten global peace, stability, and prosperity. Social and economic inequality remains a persistent challenge, further exacerbated by the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies are being developed at such an astonishing speed that many people are overwhelmed and worried about the unpredictable outcomes. These global interconnected challenges demand a collective response. To foster collective action, we need to empower individuals to navigate the complexities of our interconnected world with a heightened sense of responsibility and critical social engagement. We need to equip them with transformative skills and digital literacy. We need to instill core values of peace, human rights, tolerance, empathy, mutual understanding, and respect. In other words, we need to nurture educated global citizens. 11 years have already passed since the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon first introduced the notion of global citizenship. Since then, it has become a dynamic concept that adapts to the evolving needs of our global community. Throughout the years, the Korean government has advanced global citizenship education by developing educational materials on sustainable development and digital literacy, creating platforms for dialogue with young people, and including global citizenship education in its National Action Plan to prevent violent extremism. Since 2016, we have hosted the annual International Conference on Global Citizenship Education, with the latest conference held in October. Our government stands firm in the belief that the global citizenship education is an invaluable investment in the future of our planet and its people. It is an essential element of our work to bridge divides, embrace diversity, and create a more equitable, sustainable, and peaceful world. Today's event will provide a valuable opportunity to share our thoughts on global citizenship education in the age of artificial intelligence and climate change, and will greatly contribute to further promoting global citizenship education. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Hahn. The next opening speaker that I'm able to welcome is Lydia Ruprecht. She is team leader for global citizenship education at UNESCO. Lydia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Monica. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of UNESCO to be part of this opening of the International Forum on Global Citizenship Education in the age of artificial intelligence and climate change. Greeting to those of you that are here with us in presence, and as well to those that are connected and listening, and I'm sure that will be participating as well. Thank you for joining. I would like to express UNESCO's sincere gratitude to the Ban Ki-moon Center, and of course to the dynamic efforts of Monica at the heart of it all, and also of Heinz Fischer, the permanent mission of the Republic of Korea to the UN in Vienna, and the Salzburg Global Seminar for doing a fantastic job of organizing and hosting this event. Thanks to the leadership of the Republic of Korea in this field, and the very dynamic actors who are committed to GCED, many of whom are here today are connected, the landscape of international education has significantly changed around the world since 2012, when the Global Education First initiative was launched by Ban Ki-moon. The time has therefore come to take stock. What have we actually changed? What can we do better, and where should we go from here? UNESCO has been working in global citizenship education for a decade, since the very beginning in 2012, hand in hand with many of you. GCD, as you know, is one of UNESCO's priorities in education. Of course, we are not alone. The UNSG's vision statement at the outcome of the Transforming Education Summit made it very clear. If we are to transform our world by 2030, as envisaged by the Sustainable Development Goals, the international community must give this crisis the attention it deserves. We must respond decisively with conviction, imagination, and in solidarity to transform education. Our future depends on it, on our ability to rethink education and embed education for global citizenship and sustainable development in education systems. This means being actually very frank about our shortcomings and bold on our proposals for the improvements. More than ever, we need GCD to be meaningful, to be impactful, and transformative. GCD must help to heal, repair, and reconcile. Violent conflicts continue to rage around the globe, alongside humanitarian disasters and sharp increases in hate speech and intolerance. According to the Global Peace Index, 2022, last year, was the deadliest year since 1994 and the Rwanda genocide. In terms of global warming, we have broken the record. This summer, we crossed the 1.5-degree threshold, above pre-industrial levels. So how can GCD make a realistic difference in this context? Now, climate change education is the what, I like to say, but GCD is the how. It is through engagement. GCD brings hope, which is critical, because without hope, there can be no real commitment to improve. So on this note, in the word of hope, I would like to share some good news with you. As I don't know if you watch the UNESCO's General Conference. I imagine you don't. I know he's always very passionate while watching. But last week at the UNESCO Education Commission, at our 42nd General Conference, UNESCO's member states, 195 countries, gathered to Paris, and they adopted by consensus, so it's not a minor feat, by consensus and not by vote, the revised text of the recommendation on education for peace, sustainable development, and human rights. Now, it's not already fully passed. It's expected to be formally adopted next week in plenary, but it is an incredible step forward. For those who don't know the recommendation, this recommendation is the only UNESCO legal document instrument that focuses on education, peace, international understanding, and cooperation, and human rights. And this document actually serves as the legal foundation for SDG 4 and Target 4.7, and therefore global citizenship education. Now, we have been working on this revision for the past 2 years to ensure that the education of the 21st century is instilled with the principles of GCD and prepares learners to build more peaceful, just, and sustainable futures in our digital era. It also builds on the advances of UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. So that said, there's obviously hope. And I think all of you engaged in GCD and the young people that are here are also signs of hope. So I just wish you a very fruitful discussions and a critical and frank exchange on what can we do and what can we do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia Ruprecht. The last speaker of our opening is Dominique Regester, who is representing the Salzburg Global Seminar. Dominique, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Monica. Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends and colleagues, welcome to Salzburg Global Seminar and welcome to the International Forum on Global Citizenship Education. As you've already heard, Salzburg Global Seminar was founded 76 years ago in 1947, in many ways on an idea built on global citizenship principles, the idea that you could bring people together who were working on common issues or common challenges and build connections where they didn't previously exist in order to spark new kinds of collaboration, and that was one of the key components of building a better world. Our mission then and our mission still today is to challenge current and future leaders to work together to shape a better world. We now do that through 5 priority program pillars. So we do work in health, in culture, in peace and justice, in finance and governance, and in education. And I lead the education work, all of which is now done under the auspices of our new Centre for Education Transformation that we started last year to support the global education transformation efforts. This is an amazing time to be working in education globally because there is so much necessary change happening, much of which has been catalysed by UNESCO's amazing efforts with the Transforming Education Summit last year and all of the work that is following on from that. Much of our education work in Salzburg also draws heavily on principles of global citizenship education. So whether that's the work around social and emotional learning, whether it's the role of education in building more inclusive futures, or whether it's ideas of regenerative education and resilience and working together to address the climate crisis. As Monica mentioned in her opening remarks, this international forum is also the beginning of a 5-day program that we're hosting on civic and civil education. And it's fantastic to see many of the participants in that were able to arrive early to join the international forum. And during our next 5 days, we'll be exploring the role of education in helping young people practice acts of citizenship, the role of education in addressing polarization, and the role of education in combating disinformation. And we're excited to have the chance to share with all of you the outcomes of this 5-day program later this year. So it only remains to wish you all an incredibly successful and prosperous forum over the course of the next few hours, and to once again welcome you to Salzburg Global Seminar and thank the Ban Ki-moon Center for the opportunity to be a partner in this event. Thank you, Monica.
Thanks to our opening speakers. Can I ask you to stand up for one picture? And dear Dr. Heinz Fischer, please join the opening speakers for one documentation of the opening. And I will sneak to you as well. Now, I have to admit, I've been waiting for the next bit of the program quite a lot. We have the honor and pleasure to welcome with us Professor Dr. William Yonka. He has an amazing background, including lots of work on digital technology research, development, innovation, application, industry, and academia. He comes the way all from the Netherlands, and he is actually a mathematics and computer science major, I think. You studied at the University of Groningen and worked at Delft University. You received your PhD from Utrecht University, and you're a part-time professor on computer science for Twente University. And you also, and this is really interesting, you were at the European Computer Industry Research Center and at Philips for some time, even the vice president of Philips Research. So you have the private sector angle as well that you bring into this talk. And you were serving as CEO of the EIT. And some of you might know the EIT. It was the European, or it still is, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and he was the CEO of EIT Digital, which was a digital pan-European innovation system, basically, that you led from 2011 to 2022. So with all of these credentials, he's now the chairman of the Dutch National AI program called AI-NED, and is a fantastic keynote speaker and also very provocative. So I do hope, dear Willem, that you will provoke some of our thinking today, and I do want to pass the floor for a 30-minute intervention by you on AI and GCD. So a round of applause for Professor Dr. William Yonka.
First of all, Monica, thanks for having me here. Your Excellencies, thanks for having me. It's a real honor for all the people from around the world that gather here on education. Of course, the presentation can only be a disappointment after such an introduction, but I will try anyway. So actually, life is a puzzle, isn't it? And I want to give you a little bit of background where I come from. That also may be part of motivation why I am where I am, why I do what I do. And the pieces of the puzzle that are most recently were already mentioned. So I worked for about a decade in Philips, and actually it was a decade where we transformed the closed research institute with fences around it into an open innovation culture. It was partly out of necessity, in all honesty, because we saw the decline of corporate research centers, but it was also because there was some hope, and there was the book by Henry Chesbrough on open innovation, who showed us that you should collaborate, and collaboration can only bring you further. So the importance of collaboration was something that I really found there. And our projections for Philips Research was that it would go down from about the 3,000 people that were in our organization to about 1,000 10 years later. Today, when opening up, there are 10,000 researchers working on 1 square kilometer near Eindhoven. So opening up brings a lot of opportunities and prosperity. So working together, collaboration, key element there. You see my work at EIT Digital. EIT Digital is all about innovation and education. And you see a master school event in Madrid. And actually, that's where education really got my full attention. I was, as you can see on the side, and I still am, a part-time full professor. People always ask, what is a part-time full? Are you part-time or full? What is it? Come on, tell me. At Twente University, where I teach, on a pretty technical subject, which is secure data management, which has all to do with cybersecurity, but everything to do also with all kind of intrusions you see in the digital world. So very important topic. But the topic of today is actually what I'm doing since November 1st, and I'm the chairman of AI-NED. AI-NED is the Dutch national program on artificial intelligence. It was set up 2 years ago, and it really has the ambition to, on the one hand, work on innovation, but also work on transition of the Dutch society when it comes to AI and taking up that technology. And during the talk, I will go into that for a little. So that's a little bit background. In all honesty, when I saw GCED, I had to look it up on Wikipedia to see what it meant. I'm used to many, many acronyms in many, many organizations. This is what it says. And I was actually most triggered by the last part of it, meant to enable learners to participate in changing and developing the world. And I think it was said before already, it's not only about learning, but of course it's taking your knowledge and putting it into action to contribute to the transitions and to the development of the world. And that brings us to the major transition. And I want to start with a story when I was a small boy. I grew up in a small village in the north of the Netherlands. It was called Pekela. It still ranks very high on all kind of lists, but not the kind of list you want to rank high on. So high unemployment, poverty, little education, even crime is now on the list. So it's not really a good place to be. Nevertheless, and actually when I was giving that presentation in Groningen, there was a lot of emphasis on how can you get such an environment out of such a poverty. And this poverty goes from generation to generation. I mean, there are third-generation people that are on the dole from generation to generation. And the ones that were able to get out of it, and I personally am an example, came out through education. Education is the magic key to do these kind of transitions and to get out of it. So when I was a boy, actually, this was how the canals looked like. And these canals look like this because what you see is protein, which you get as a waste product when you produce potato starch. And, well, since it's waste, you just put it on the canal in those days, right? Then, of course, people started to act against that because it was not smelling very good, I can tell you. So then the industry decided, okay, let's not dump it here, but let's make something useful out of this. And they made, for animals, feeding. They used it. It was not very beneficial stuff, but okay. Then innovation continued, and now this waste is used to produce veggie burgers. A very profitable business, and actually innovation and transition hand in hand made that the canals look like this, so very good for the environment, but the company makes most of its money out of the waste of the past. So you can see that rebuilding the environment and creating economic wealth can go hand in hand, and it's not a contradiction. And I find this a very inspiring example for myself. So the green transition is one of the major transitions that's going on, and I won't talk about it today, because today we're going to talk about another transition, and that's the digital transition. Who thinks that the digital transition will even have a bigger impact on society than the green transition? I talked to the wrong audience. Come on, raise your hands. So what is the digital transition all about? The digital transition, of course, has elements that you see here. But before I want to go into that, I want to say a few words about what a transition actually is and what the difference between an innovation is and a transition, but also what research is. So, and I took this picture. So Nikola Tesla developed an induction engine. And it was there, it was sitting on the shelves, and it was doing marvelous things. And he was a researcher. He made discoveries, he built machines, he invented things. But in order to make this nice research discovery into innovation, it required an entrepreneur. And this entrepreneur, Elon Musk, took that result of that research and build it into an innovation. He built it into a product that you can bring to the market, that people can buy. But by having a single electric car, you don't have a transition. If you want to go to a transition, it's not just about Elon Musk building these cars, but all of us starting to use these cars. And that not only requires that these cars are there, but it also requires that the infrastructure is there. So you see that transition is a complete different mechanism than innovation, which is again very different from research. If you go to a university, they will tell you it's all the same and you have to give them money to solve all these problems. Don't do it, don't do it. So when you talk about digital innovation and you put it against digital transition, what are the key elements in a digital innovation? Well, there are two kinds of digital innovations. There are innovations about the core digital technology. Who has no mobile phone? Nobody? When I asked this question 20 years ago, more than half, well, let's say 1995, more than half of the people would raise their hands. Who has a European phone, by the way? Nobody? Who has an Android phone? And the rest, an iPhone. Again, when I asked this question 15 years ago, and I would say, who has a Nokia phone? Everybody in the room would raise its hand. So what happened here? Well, you did good. So digital innovation is about changing the core digital technology, but it's also very much of applying digital technology in all kinds of domains, where it becomes a driver to advance those domains and make sure that those domains are more productive, more efficient, or getting terribly off the tracks, which unfortunately, with the application of digital technology, we see as well. And a good example is the internet. The internet started as a dream, as a democratic dream, a network for everyone, where everyone would be equal. Who feels him or herself as equal as Facebook? So much for equality on the internet. Anybody has Bitcoins here? Only one. They're going up again. Another promise of a democratic coin. How many Bitcoin miners still survive today? The millions of the people that would be given the entrance to mine their own coins? Or about a dozen of big mining farms dominated by a few monopolies? So that's where you have to be very careful with technology, with good intentions to use it, to connect people. It can also be used to a bad disadvantage and putting people apart. If you see what's going on X, the kind of messages is not always a community that brings people together, to my opinion at least. So that's what you see in innovation. If you talk about transition, it's a different story. For innovation, you put your focus behind a single goal. I mean, Elon Musk builds just Tesla cars. And you don't need a Tesla factory in every city. But if you want to have everybody moving to electric cars, that has to happen all over the place. So transition, by definition, is broad. It's inclusive. It has to bring everybody around. And what are the key ingredients that are needed there? It starts with education. It's so important to know and to understand and to get that knowledge, to enrich yourself with these new technologies and to know the advantages, but also to apply them in a thoughtful and careful way so that they really benefit us as society as a whole. And then there's experimentation. So you have to try it. Who used ChatGPT over the last month? Great. And who used ChatGPT 2 years ago? You're fast learners. Excellent. Excellent. So you have to experiment. And then, of course, there is the other element, which is regulation. And that's where the government step in. If you have to buy an electric car, but it's far more expensive than a combustion engine, you need incentives to do that. And the government can build those incentives. And normally what they do is the stick and carrot method. They tell you by 2030, no new combustion engine cars in Europe anymore. And they say, if you buy one today, you get a tax reduction. So that's part of regulation. But regulation is, of course, much broader. And I will come to it when we talk about AI. So that's very important to see that difference and also to understand that you need different tools in different places. And governments should change their strategies. Their strategies are too old-fashioned R&D strategies. They are not transition strategies. They are not innovation strategies. They are research strategies that only very, very slowly progress into development strategies. But they are far away from true innovation strategies. They are far away from true transition policies. Artificial intelligence. So we have three flavors of them. You have the narrow intelligence. And who recognizes those two historic moments? So this was the first time he doesn't look very happy because he was beaten by a computer. And same for the champion of Go, which was also beaten by a computer. So that's history. Yeah. Today, we're probably approaching this. General artificial intelligence. A lot of people say ChatGPT is there. I don't think so. I will show an example why I don't think so later on. But that's where we are moving. So we are moving away from very task-oriented application of artificial intelligence to a broader knowledge system that can act on multiple domains and even sometimes look clever. Who thinks that ChatGPT looks clever? I saw a lot of people using it. So who thinks it looks pretty clever from time to time? Yeah, I think too. Yeah. So many areas it looks pretty clever. And then, of course, who recognizes HAL 9000? Our big dream, right? Space Oddity, the computer that will make it. You know why it's called HAL, by the way? No? Okay. So this is... I'm a computer scientist and do encryption, encoding, and so on. And one simple thing of encoding is letter moving. So what's after H in the alphabet? What's after A in the alphabet? IBM. We know it. You didn't know it. You see, sometimes you learn something. So that's HAL 9000. That's our big dream. But that's also a big threat, because will HAL take over from humanity? According to Elon Musk, he will. So generative AI, the big thing at this moment. Is generative AI new? Well, actually not really, because it has a whole history. I mean, we are in an ancient castle, and it also looks like famous families have these trees as well. So it starts to look human, right? It has a history tree. This is the rise of the chatbots. And for me, the best picture that shows what ChatGPT does is this. This is a submarine coming to the surface. And this is what we see, maybe even the top. But there's a lot underneath. But it's coming up. So it's not an iceberg that's always staying underneath, but it's really coming up. And we see more and more of the power of this technology emerging and becoming visible. And at the core of these applications are the so-called foundation models or large language models. And a large language model is about enormous amounts of data, is about enormous amount of parameters of your neural networks that runs these engines, and it's about enormous amount of computing power. And if it's 3 times enormous, it's for the happy few. And that's exactly what's happening with this technology today. And I will get to that as well. So what we need to move away from these closed source foundation models that are dominated by big tech to open source foundation models on which you can build hubs in application domains and open it up to make it a really transparent but also competitive environment. And I'll come back to that as well. So what's going on here? Well, an awful lot of things. So you see applications popping up by the day, mind-blowing, what have you. So you can make people look happy or sad, or dressing them up nicely, or getting them arrested if you don't agree. You can do it all. You can make very, very nice art. You can go and take your retirement when you are a programmer, because ChatGPT will do it all for you. And if you like the Beatles, you're really in great luck, because it will all be regenerated by artificial intelligence. So a lot of opportunities, and that's why a lot of people jump on it. However, it is currently dominated by big tech. And if you are a European, you observe it's dominated by non-European big tech. Yeah. And you see the usual suspects: Meta, Amazon, Google, OpenAI, Snapchat. You also see Tesla. If I ask you, BMW, what kind of company is it? What would you say? Car company. I would say motorcycle, because I love motorcycles, but okay. Car company, right? Tesla. Car company? Battery company? AI company? Technology company? Data company? It's all of them. What is this? Electricity grid, it's a map. Yeah. It's a heat map. It's a heat map, but a heat map of what? Charging network, you're getting close. Yeah. Silicon Valley? That's what it is. It's AI. Yeah, it's about AI. Yeah, Tesla charging, you're getting close. This is indeed the data collection of Tesla cars. So Tesla has a deep learning machine. Every Tesla car is equipped with numerous sensors, cameras, what have you, and all that data is sent to their data centers and examined on a daily basis. It's for autonomous driving, and if they are very successful, Elon Musk hopes that it will drive him to Mars. But that's a different story. So this is actually what Tesla is currently doing. On a daily, who owns a Tesla here? Who has a Tesla lease car? In the Netherlands, they're more popular as lease car than being owned. But nobody. Okay, so you're safe. You're not part of this data collection network. So this is users of X. X is formerly known, the artist formerly known as Twitter. So X. Yeah. So you see it's here. Who owns X? Musk. Who owns Tesla? What would you do if you would be Musk? Indeed. So it doesn't take a genius to do this, right? So he created a company called X.AI. And that company sits on enormous rich sets of data. And this person determines what is the ethics of this data, what is the truth in the world, how we let people talk, whom is being promoted on the internet, who is being demoted, what is hate speech. This person. You like that? I like the person, but I don't like him doing all this, right? So how do we get the control out of these people's hands again? That's one of the major challenges we have in artificial intelligence. Yeah. So that's the concern side. You can do great things. You've seen brilliant applications, many of them, they're all over the place. You believe that this technology is really getting to a level that you start to believe that it makes sense, what comes out of ChatGPT and so on. But there's also other things. There's the ethics and the laws. And there's, what does it mean for employment? And employment is still the basis of our economic system. So, concerns. Another very strange thing is copyright law. So, why is copyright law relevant for ChatGPT? Yeah, so it reads all kind of secret documents. And then, so somebody was asking me, are you participating to copyright infringement when you are a user of ChatGPT? Who thinks you are? So when you use ChatGPT, do you feel you are participating to copyright infringement? Who thinks? One. There were a lot of users. Nobody raises their hand and thinks you think. Yeah. So, is this an issue, yes or no? Well, it is an issue because there are laws coming on. But I was asked the question, do you feel you are collaborating or even having a kind of conspiracy together with ChatGPT if you use it and you infringe on copyright? And I would say, would you ask me the question as well? Because my knowledge is based on a lot of learning, of combining a lot of resources, a lot of copyrighted material. I worked in industry, even secret material is all merged into my brain. You ask me a question and I give you an answer based on all that knowledge. Are you infringing copyright law? Don't think so. But how do we deal with that? It's not an easy question. So the good news is that, hey, ChatGPT, finish this building. So there will be work for all of us, don't worry. This was in the south of the Netherlands, and these were jobs that were there when we still had a very good mining industry. We closed all those mines. There was a lot of opposition because it would destroy all those jobs. Those jobs are replaced by people that are working in clean factories building cars. Which job do you prefer? This one or that one? You don't like to work? Of course, we all prefer this. So for society as a whole, this is great. For this individual, it was a disaster. So the only way we can make a good transition is that we also take care of this person. We not only focus on the benefits of the next one, right? So that's very important. Education can play an enormous role here to make sure that this worker can also do these tasks. But don't forget about those people. And don't call them backward, don't call them people from the past. Help them to join the transition, please. I have a small company, I create content. My competitor also starts a very small company to create content because instead of using all those people, he has found something on the internet called ChatGPT. Who wins this competition? Who thinks that this will win?
What's the content? Not yet.
Not yet, not yet, not yet. Yeah. Sorry?
In terms of quantity, you might win.
Quantity you might win, yeah.
The combination wins. Like.
The combination might win, if you put them all together. So the answer is actually, it depends. It depends. It depends very much what kind of content. Is this bot good at that kind of content? Yes or no? But also depends on the economics. Because ChatGPT currently is for free. And you have a pay first. Who thinks that 5 years from now ChatGPT will be free? Who thinks that you have to pay? And who thinks companies that use ChatGPT will have to pay seriously? So are we being trapped into something? And if those economic powers are concentrated in a few big tech companies, is that an economic future that we want to live in? I don't think so, at least not me. Okay, there's a lot going on about regulation. So two very recent things were the Artificial Intelligence Act by the European Commission, and there is the presidential order that was signed very recently by Biden. So you see that governments across the world are really focusing on how to deal with this technology and how to make sure you get policies that do this in the right way. I want to very briefly address one other very important transition that is going on, but it's not always mentioned on these kind of lists, and that's the transition to a new world order. And that's an enormous, important transition. And sometimes I ask myself, is this a problem? And when I talk to a lot of people of my generation around me in the Western world, they feel a kind of a problem. But is it a problem for the world? I don't think so. Isn't it mainly an incumbent problem of ourselves that are preaching to everyone? Come on, transform, go to a new environment, go to a new situation. Okay, this will be the new world order. Go for it. Join, take part, and make sure it becomes a good world order. Make sure that the right values are propagated in that order, but don't push back on it. And what you also see is that the new world order, and these are some pictures about where the new world order, the upcoming, especially Asia, this is about China, but it's more broad in Asia, are investing in. I want to show one thing that strikes really. So here you see investments in Europe. So it's the R&D investments. Yeah? And what you see is automobiles, health industries, and so on. And in digital services, you get very little. If you look to the emerging economy, like China, you see that ICT products and ICT services is where most of the investment money goes. So who will dominate the digital world in the long run? If the money goes, the cost goes before the benefits, then this is hinting in a specific direction. And we have to adjust our investment. It's too much in the old economy. Europe is too much investing in the old economy. Okay, so it's no surprise that there is pushback on globalization as a result. And of course, we have to address that because globalization has its upsides, but also its downsides. And we have to find a balanced way to deal with that. Universities play an important role, and if there are university officials here, for me, the challenge of a university is always the societal regional role of an international-oriented university. For me, a university has to play a regional role, but has also to connect that regional environment to a global knowledge environment. And you can't be only one part of it. You can't just connect to the global one and say, oh, at the global level we are all just agreed and the region is forgotten. Yeah. And I have an example of this. This is actually something I wrote in a local newspaper, and this was about the University of Groningen. You don't listen. That was aiming to build a new campus in China, which is great for the University of Groningen, but I think in China they can build their own campuses. So I wrote a small article, and in the end I wrote, rather than taking the plane to China, why don't you take the bus to go to Pekela? That's where I lived, and where there's still a lot of poor people that need innovation, that need education as well. So please, universities play a regional role. It's very important for the regions. And this is an example of an initiative, that's my Sunday project, as I call it, and that's about innovation exactly in that region where I come from. What's then the educational challenge? Well, we have to connect our education systems much better to the societal challenges. We have to make sure that the education systems improve and modernize. And we have to make sure that they are well embedded in their regions. There is a report, I brought 2 copies. I can leave them behind. You can download it, of the future of digital skills that we wrote as EIT Digital. A bit about the transformation of education. So 100 years ago, I took a picture of a car and a picture of a classroom. 100 years later, I took a picture of a car and a picture of the classroom. The classroom had completely changed. I mean, nowhere similar like the old one, but the cars are still the same. So I think in 30 years from now, this is probably how the classrooms will look like. A few students that couldn't find a place in the library to work on ChatGPT, so they take these chairs here. And somebody's talking to empty chairs, right? We have to transform our education system. AI can play a role. It has its ups and its downs. I mean, it's something for maybe a panel discussion on what it can actually do and what it cannot do, but it's very important to put it in a responsible way. The first thing when you talk to teachers about AI in education is students are cheating because they are delivering me what ChatGPT is producing. My answer is, ask them questions that ChatGPT can't answer. Then they won't do this anymore. So this is actually, for me, a summary what needs to be done. And what I want to stress is that it's not only about education, but it's also about talent, technology, innovation, and transition. So make your education knowledge and put it at work. Do something with it, okay? These are the things that we discussed. This is for the IT people, right? But we don't want the wannabe, we want the real one more thing. Who knows this book? Yeah. It's about what? Is it about motorcycle maintenance? It's what's written here, an inquiry into values. So when I read this book as a long time ago, I was very much inspired. And when I had to do this talk, I thought, hey, how about AI in the art of motorcycle maintenance? Because it's also about values and so on. So then I set out and I asked the query to ChatGPT. I said, what are now the benefits of playing accordion while riding a motorcycle? Sounds a nice question, isn't it? Well, ChatGPT has a very long answer, but in conclusion, playing the accordion while riding a motorcycle can provide numerous benefits, including improved coordination and hand-eye coordination, of course, stress relief, it's very it's an activity to pass the time rather than driving the motorcycle itself, and an opportunity to connect with other musicians that also have a motorcycle. Great, isn't it? And this is actually, for me, the core of education and finding your way in life. And that's also what generative AI does. It brings us back to the basic. Ask the right question. It always starts with asking the right question. So many questions are not worth asking. Ask the right question. Go to the core. Go to the essence. Ask the right question. But also check the answer, because most of the answers are not worth listening to. That's me. A long way to go. That you all know. If you want to go fast on your motorcycle, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Willem. I think I didn't disappoint. What an interesting, insightful speech. I think we will have lots of material to discuss in our panels, and this is exactly what I want to do now. We will continue with panel discussions, and yet we will be distributed over 2 buildings. So not only will something take place here, but also in the actual castle. And to do that, I do have to ask you to a show of hands, because I do want to assess who is planning to go into which panel. We have panel 1 on policy, which again features William and others like UNESCO and also the Minister of Education, of Civic Education from Sierra Leone, for example. It is the panel on developments in policymaking on GCD in the age of AI and climate change, so panel 1. And it will take place in the library in the castle over there. I'm reading out all of them to you so that you decide which one you're on, and then I will ask you for a show of hand which one you have decided upon. Panel number 2 will be the one about tertiary education, about universities and higher education. So what are the GCD challenges and success stories from universities around the world? This will happen here in the Fellows Hall. In a couple of minutes we will start, and I know that Mervyn Becker from Groningen will actually moderate this panel. I will moderate panel number 1. And panel number 3 is the one on the young changemakers. So what did young changemakers already do? What do they need to do? What is the action bit of it? What are best practice examples from young global citizens? That will happen in seminar room 3, and that's panel number 3, so that's the 3rd option. Now, show of hands, drum roll. Who actually wants to go to panel number 1, the policy panel? All right, that looks quite a lot, all right? What about the university panel? Who is interested in the education panel? Okay, I will have to encourage, I guess, some from panel number 1 to still be excited about panel number 2, because that is too few. We will need more people on panel number 2. The young changemakers, who is interested in the young changemakers? So few. No, please, please. It's fascinating stories. So, panel number 1, big encouragement. Please, who of you will be willing to go to either panel number 2, university, or panel number 3, the young changemakers? They're all very exciting, I promise. Policies, I have to downplay it now. It's boring. It's the paper that things are written on. Look at the best practice action. Anyone willing to change? Anyone? Thank you. Please do consider. We do need about 30 people, 40 people in each. So if you see that the room is too crowded, please go elsewhere. How will we do this so that you find a room? We are breaking into coffee break now. Some of you are lucky and can have coffee downstairs. These are the ones that stay with the university panel. Some of you are not so lucky and will need to grab umbrellas and go to the castle. And actually, we will have leaders for you. And please maybe come up so that people can see you. Katharina will be one of your guides. And actually, I would like to encourage all panel 3 people to already get up now, pack your stuff, and follow Katharina. She will lead you to the room over there in the castle. It's seminar room 3. All the best, pack. The rest stays, please, because the other panels will follow suit. We will be back in this room at 12 o'clock sharp. 12 o'clock sharp, back in this room. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you can still hear me. Ladies and gentlemen, panel number 1. Panel number 1, please follow Katrin Ebner. She will guide you to the library in the other building. Grab an umbrella, grab your things, maybe grab your coats if you need them for the short way. I encourage you not to take them. And the university panel, you are back here starting at 1:30. Ideally at 10:30, the university panel here in the Fellows Hall will start with the moderation of Mervyn. Enjoy, have fun, see you back here at 12 o'clock.
Between moon and sun, in the desert fields, a fever so high makes me wanna shout. Sahara, Sahara nights. Listen to the wind, bring it into your ears. Music from afar. You may hear the sounds of a tribal dance coming from the heights. In the desert fields, a fever so high makes me wanna shout. Sahara, Sahara nights. And stars screen the awful mystery of space with its weight of fear. I now realize the hold it has on me. Do-day-up, do-day-up, do-do-up, 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 do-day-up, do-do-up, 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 do-do-up. I'm floating in a beam of light with you, a beam of light with you. Reached out a hand to touch your face. You're slowly disappearing from my view, disappearing from my view. And I ran so far away. I just ran all night and day. And I ran so far away. I just I ran all night and day. I couldn't get away.
Record, oder? Record?
last few people a chance to make their way over here. Thank you all for choosing this panel. It's by far and away the most interesting and exciting. Chosen very wisely and very well. Two of our speakers are joining via Zoom, so we're just sorting out the last, just bringing them online, and then we'll kick off. Great, good morning, everybody. Thank you again for choosing panel 3. We're going to be focusing on youth innovation or youth-led innovations. Some of it will reference AI, some of it will be more general innovations. There are going to be 5 speakers. We've got 5 outstanding speakers with some really interesting and varied examples of their work to share. They will each speak for about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask each of them a quick question after they've spoken, and then the second half of the discussion will be a sort of open Q&A or discussion with all of you. Because this is being streamed for an online audience, and 2 of our speakers are joining via Zoom, if you'd like to ask a question, it would help from a production point of view if you wouldn't mind coming to the front and speaking into this microphone so the camera can catch you, and then the online audience can see who's asking the question as well. So my name's Dominic Register. I'm the Director of Education here at Salzburg Global Seminar. A lot of our work in education over the last 18 months has really focused on the idea of intergenerational collaboration and leadership. And so it's really exciting to have the chance to host and moderate this panel on youth innovation. We feel really strongly that some of the most compelling innovations and groundbreaking work in the education transformation space is either youth-led or is coming through intergenerational collaborations. With a wide consortium of different partners, we published a guide during UN General Assembly earlier this year on intergenerational power sharing, or some suggestions as to how you can convene in a meaningful and inclusive intergenerational manner. And the guide is available to download from our website if you're interested, or we'll include it in the follow-up email to everyone. This feels like a long-neglected aspect of education reform, and so it's something which is exciting to be a part of, and thinking how these youth-led innovations or intergenerational collaborations will contribute to some of the amazing education transformative work which is taking place at the moment and over the next 7 years as we get closer to the 2030 deadline for SDG 4. So we're going to first of all hear from one of our online speakers, and I wasn't expecting it to be Samuel. Is Garam also? She's great. So Garam Jeon is a youth representative for the Scouts in South Korea, and was very involved in organizing the World Jamboree that the Scouts hosted in South Korea earlier this year. And Garam is going to talk about some of her work. And we'll then hear from Sarah, we'll then hear from Samuel, and I'll introduce each of them as we get closer to it, and we'll then hear from Stephanie at the end, and then from Sarah next to me here. So Garam, if we could bring you onto the stage, and your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Dominic. Greeting from Korea. Good morning to the Salzburg. It's a great honor to share these few words to you all here today. And I'm watching the live stream on YouTube now, and I'm so excited to meet you all with this screen. And it's a pity that I cannot attend in person in Austria, which has such beautiful scenery, but I feel so honored to be able to with you all. Beforehand, thank you for hosting such a great event to Ban Ki-moon Center, Minister of the Foreign Affairs, and a Salzburg Global Seminar. My name is Garam Jeon. I'm a youth representative with the World Organizations of the Scout Movement, representing more than 57 million Scouts who wants to constantly contribute to the world and make a better world. Again, it's really big pleasure to meet you all here today. Let me briefly share about the World Organization of the Scout Movement. The Scouting movement is the world's largest coordinated youth contribution to the Sustainable Development Goals, with more than 2 billion service hours completed by the young people through community action projects and campaigns to make the world a better place. Before delivering the key content, today I'd like to first emphasize the role and the importance of youth first, because I am a youth. So youth represents the future of our world, and their role should never be downplayed. We must support young people to have the skills to face the diverse challenges of now and the future. Young people bring creative and innovative ideas and provide new perspectives on every social issues. We also acquire knowledge through education, raise awareness of the environmental issues, and drive social change. This is why we call the young people the protagonists of the next generations, or the all too precious resources of our planet. As I've grown up through scouting for 14 years now, I would like to say that among many events, I guess in my personal opinion, the most key event is the World Scout Jamboree, which was recently held in South Korea. Maybe all of you know this. The World Scout Jamboree is the world's largest youth campsite, and the camping typically held every 4 years. At the World Scout Jamboree, 10,000 of young people and leaders from 150 countries practice global citizenships by sharing their cultures, experiences, and friendship. Usually when a jamboree begins, young people, they form units and live in a tent for about 10 days or 11 days like this, where they can experience and learn about the non-formal education, which is very different from the general school educations. When we go to the jamboree campsites, we can find about maybe more than 200 various on and off campsite program related to self-improvement, strengthening the good citizenships, or the embracing diversity and the strengthening world peace and ecology. Held in rotation on each continent for every 4 years, the World Scout Jamboree is an event for youth between the age of 14 and 17, and they can experience the Jamboree at a certain age, usually maybe only once in their lives. In order to engrave unforgettable memory of one Jamboree during adolescence, Scout leaders from all over the world joined the planning team based on their own Jamboree experiences and have been volunteering for about 4 years prior to the event. So I experienced the Jamboree as a participant and now as a member of the planning team. And this time, I was a youth chip in a World Scout Jamboree in Saemangam. I provided unforgettable memory for the youth. I couldn't be happier imagining the bright smiles on the children's faces. And maybe on the news, many people never thought that these scouts, young scouts, they cry after the Jamboree. Maybe the news show that the Jamboree was really tough and hard, but inside that, there was so many good experience and a memory to the young peoples. And the World Organization of the Scout Movements combines scouting values and educational ideas on global citizenships and sustainability through the scouting events for the young people. The Scouts for Life sector provides young people with leaderships and life skills and a sense of the responsibility to solve the world's challenges. So maybe we must continue to provide support to help the young people become competent citizens. We also really hope that through these networking events, we can embrace diverse views and perspectives and work together to create a better world in complementary manners. Thank you for listening.
Garen, that was brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you for sticking to time so adeptly. I think you're the youngest speaker that we have across the whole International Forum today, and so be interested to learn more about, from your perspective, what's the most difficult challenge that you feel you faced as a young person working in these kind of spaces?
I will answer this question from the standpoint of the Korean. So first of all, when I participate in a World Scout Jamboree as a participant, maybe that was the 15 years old for me in Japan. I think the hardest part was the adapting to the new environment. If you were Korean, maybe everyone probably agree with me, but now it is changing a lot in Korean society. But in very general, in Korea school, most of them consist of the teacher-centered classes, not student-centered classes. So students are having a lot of trouble, like exploring themselves and setting their own directions. However, the Jamboree campsite seems to have been the best place to find solution on its own, respect others, and learn about the non-formal education, which cannot learn from the school, the general school in Korea. So I think this is best place for learning about this kind of things. And non-formal education is not learned in very ordinary schools, so such as exceptions of the various cultures. And in addition, because of the sponge-like absorptions, which is the strength of the teenagers, it seems that we can accept new learning in this new environment and get closer to the global citizenships.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Scouts and other initiatives like this are so important for helping young people practice this idea of acts of citizenship. So how do you become a more active citizen in your community? In many cases, for initiatives like the Scouts, before you have the right to vote. Austria is a really interesting example of that within the European Union, because it's still the only country that has a voting age of 16 across all EU member states. So initiatives like the Scouts, working alongside formal education opportunities to practice acts of citizenship, are a really important way of becoming more active members of community and citizens. Thank you, Garen. Please stay with us, stay online and stay for the discussion that will follow each of the presentations. We're going to shift the focus now from looking at non-formal education to an initiative that is more grounded in education. And Sarah Ciappatoni is going to talk about some of the work she's been doing around collaborative lesson planning with teachers. So Sarah, to you. Thank you.
My apologies. So thank you, Dominic. You probably read, maybe in the program, that I've been working as a teacher on sustainability for over a decade now. But the first challenge I encountered when dealing with GCD was at the beginning of my career as a university lecturer in 2016. The SDGs were just new, so I was very committed to bring GCD and sustainability into my classrooms. However, I soon realized that there were unique challenges. I didn't receive any training, pre-service training related to the SDGs or related to GCD. Since then, much has changed. I must say there are many initiatives like the World Lectures Lessons, Global Schools. However, these initiatives focus more on K-12, which is primary, secondary education. They didn't focus on teachers like me, who worked in higher education. I'm glad that Garam mentioned non-formal learning, because also educators who work in that sector often lack of possibilities to access professional development. And at the same time, I realized that this was not just my challenge. There is a report, a UNESCO report, very recent, called Teachers Have Their Say. And it's based on a survey on 58,000 teachers. And it shows that 95% of teachers are very committed to bring GCD into their classrooms. However, they don't feel as comfortable, as confident, because they don't receive much training on this. So what are the solutions? Well, a project I've recently started, thanks to the Ban Ki-moon Center, is called Empowered. What I do is that I provide training opportunities for educators in any sectors. Some of them are in the K-12, even though there are many other initiatives, but it's also important to note that sometimes these initiatives are most successful where there is a whole school approach. If a school is not committed to GCD, then also the professional development opportunities of teachers are reduced. So my trainings gather any kind of educator, really, and we don't just stop at making the lesson plan as developing it, but we also we'll go one step farther, and teachers are guided to implement these lesson planning. So what we do is, first of all, develop the lesson plan together. So different teachers from across the globe work together to develop a good plan related to values and skills that are relevant to their context, and then they implement it. So it's a virtual exchange between students from different parts of the world. And yes, I guess that's one way to address this issue. But going back to the same report that I mentioned earlier, the UNESCO report, Teachers Have Their Say, I must admit that teachers appreciate these kind of trainings, but they are also, they would prefer having a whole school approach. That way, it would not just be their responsibility. Of course, professional development is an opportunity to grow as an educator, but sometimes it appears that if a school is not committed to this kind of endeavor, then it becomes almost a burden only for teachers who already have very busy schedules. And going back to something that Gara mentioned is the importance of non-formal education. We cannot just stop at, getting our diploma and then the importance of GCED or ESD diminishes. We should think of education in a more circular way, much like our economies, not just a linear economy, but a circular approach to education, because we will need, especially with the new technologies that have been mentioned, not just AI, but we will need to go back to education several times throughout our lives to upskill and reskill. And this is true for all of us, and it's also true for educators. So probably educators that have now been in service for 20, 30 years will need to reskill. They will need to learn how to use new tools, because the tools we needed 20 years ago, maybe if you saw the picture towards the end of the keynote speech, the classrooms didn't change. But we actually do need new tools. And these are tools that our teachers need to learn how to teach us, how to empower us with this. So that's why I really think that the professional development of teachers is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to really make GCED effective and to help all learners, and also those who go back to learning, to have an impact on the world of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That picture was really depressing, wasn't it? And even when he looked forward to 2050, the classroom wasn't changing that much. So one of the challenges that it feels like exists with GCED, or with any new initiative in education, is how to make space for it in the curriculum. We all know, because we've all experienced it, that most of curricula around the world are built on 19th or 20th century models, preparing people for an economy that doesn't really exist anymore. They draw heavily on colonial practices in many, many cases. But there's still the curricula that students are taught through and with. So when you've been working with teachers, how do you make space for these new ideas and new topics to come into the curricula?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there are many countries where there is more space, more room for having these kind of activities, but there are some teachers who simply tell me, I have to stick to the national curricula, there's nothing I can do. So one opportunity that nearly every school has is when there are those important recurrences like Earth Day or Climate Action Day. In these kind of instances, teachers have a little bit more room to bring at least one activity to foster collaboration and also exchanges with different countries and students from maybe different schools, if not different countries. So that's one space where nearly every educator can at least bring one activity related to GCED.
So from an advocacy point of view, the first step is to look for spaces that exist in the curriculum.
Yes, exactly. If the curriculum is too strict and there is no room to bring even a little small change, then there are always other opportunities. These kind of events are one.
Great, thank you very much indeed. I should have said at the beginning, because we're going to hear 5 quite rapid talks, if you think of a question while someone's speaking, then please do write it down, because there's going to be an awful lot of interesting, stimulating ideas coming to you, and we wouldn't want to lose any of the questions that you would like to ask. We're now going to go back online, and we're going to hear from Samuel Afadu. Samuel's from Ghana, but he's actually joining us just down the road from Prague where he's based for the next month or two. And he is going to speak about work that he's been doing around improving rural education, and particularly an initiative called Light to Read. So Samuel, if we could pass to you, please.
Thank you very much, Dominic, and hello to everyone. Glad to be on this panel. I will share my screen with some few slides on what I want to discuss today. So please do let me know once you see them. First of all, as you can see, my name is Samuel. I actually lead an organization called Light My World International. So Light My World International, we are based in Ghana, and we're providing access to solar energy or sustainable energy for school children that are living in off-grid communities. Why is this approach? Just the picture that you see, sometimes we feel or we don't really engage with such pictures. This is one of the communities that we did our project, Light to Read. And as you can see, people in this community do not have access to electricity. And so thereby the children there do not also have quality education. And also it's very hard for them to read and study at night. With all these issues coming together, it makes their development very stagnant. And that is why it's very critical that people who are living in rural communities need to be changed, or we need to give them a way that they can actually also develop in terms of having an education and the skills that will empower their lives and also shape them for a sustainable future. And that is why we brought in our Light to Read project, helping these communities and children to be able to empower them for this digital economy and also to be more sustainable moving forward. So just wanted to share a couple of things that we did, and of course, that we can all draw examples from to make sure that, of course, when we're talking about global citizenship education, we are also incorporating these factors into consideration to help. One key thing that we actually recognize is that, yes, these are rural communities, and most of these rural communities are very peculiar in terms of their settings. So we need to really understand, of course, their culture. We also need to take into consideration, the traditional values. And of course, we also need to consider, the social cohesion. So most of our approach were really geared towards these areas to make sure that even though we are providing the light, sustainable light for children to be able to read and study at night, we're also making sure that we are touching all of these aspects to make sure that people are not really in isolation, but then of course, we are building them up for a more prosperous future. So one initiative that we're doing, we involved university students, both from Ghana and also from abroad, to be able to go to such communities where we did special trainings for them, helping them to improve their skills in terms of language, in terms of reading, really opening them to the global community. We also, one thing is being very, very innovative. So you can say that, yes, these are communities. So if you really want to change something, how can we change this? We cannot just one day bring a lot of electricity lines to light this community. But of course, we realize that we can start very small. And the small innovation that we did is actually providing this solar-powered lamp. So even though it's small, it's really give them the tools, the ability for someone, a kid like this, to be able to study and read at night. And thereby, this is a very innovative step to make sure that, we can change the trajectory and, of course, change the vicious cycle of most of these people that find themselves in such rural communities. So innovation is very, very key. The other aspect I want to talk about is actually in terms of the leadership. Leadership for global education is very, very important. We need to have people that understand and that want a prosperous future for all of us, to be able to have this shared common agenda to push forward, to make sure that no one is left behind. So, of course, young people are very key in terms of leadership as well. We need to also leverage on the power of this young leadership to make sure that we are crossing the borders, collaborating with, most of the stakeholders that we work with within the various communities. And last but not the least, talking about this is also very collaboration. So for us to be able to make sure we're moving forward in terms of the global education and citizenship, we really need to collaborate. So collaborate is very, very key. In our instance, yes, it was very hard to reach most of these communities, but however, we really relied on also various institutions or the government agencies to make sure that we can have an insight of where there is a challenge. And of course, we, the young people, my team and I, we went in there to make sure that we can also discuss with the community by itself, really understand what has been some of the systematic issues that has been happening, and also making sure that we can evolve and change most of these things. So in a nutshell, I would say that young people are very key, and we need to also make sure that, we have some points of leverage where we can change the trajectory of most of the things that we see around. We need to see ourselves as change agents and making sure that the world becomes a better place as we want to see.
Samuel, brilliant. Thank you very much. And really powerful reminder that for all the SDG 4 talk about quality education, basic access to education is still a major challenge for many communities around the world. I wondered, in the work that you do with rural communities, are you getting a sense of what people want to learn is changing, and are the communities involved in kind of developing the projects with you and thinking about these 21st century or global citizenship skills, which aren't necessarily a part of traditional curricula?
Thank you very much, Dominic. Yes, definitely. These issues really comes up because we are in a globalized world. One way or the other, people get to understand what is happening. And so when we speak with most of the parents, they really want a great future for their kids and also a great future for their country, their locality. So they really want access to, most of these innovative things that is happening. Of course, looking at an example like as I'm showing to you now, imagine community with no electricity, but then these kids also have to write an exams on ICT, right? Most of them have not even seen a laptop before. So how then do you transform these kids? How then do you make sure that these kids are prepared for the future? So these issues comes up, and that's why it's very, very important that those people that have access to most of these knowledge from outside, we make sure that we can still provide specific aspect of it to the kids or to communities like that to make sure that they are improving. So yes, in terms of digital literacy, it's very key, and it comes up. How can I be digital literate? How can I understand what is really going on? And also the most important is really making decisions. And I cannot overemphasize that the decisions that someone makes today goes a long way to affect that community, that family, and also the country at large. So yes, we see this request for new initiative, and our organization and also other partners are also working towards to make sure that we incorporate this in our day-to-day projects and activities that we push for these communities.
Thank you. It's amazing work, and thank you for sharing it with us. If you stop screen sharing when you get a chance so that we can bring both you and Garam back into the conversation. So we've heard about initiatives in non-formal education, in formal education, in rural communities. We're now going to hear about a project which in many ways bridges both formal and non-formal. And Stephanie Edwards is going to talk about work that she's been leading to develop initiatives that help students practice acts of citizenship. So Stephanie, thank you.
Thank you very much. So before I start, I wanted to say thank you to the Salzburg Global Seminar and for the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizenship. Thanks to them, I've been carrying out a project in my local school, and it's an honor to be here and get to talk about it and to kind of celebrate the small wins that we've had over the last couple of years. So as an educator, I became a teacher by accident, and I chose to stay in education by choice. And it coincided when I discovered the UNESCO Global Citizenship Education documents the topics and learning objectives for global citizenship education. And when I found that document, I realized, that's what's missing. Because when I was in school and I was teaching, I was just teaching content and content and content. And then kids go home at the end of the day and they take an exam and then they forget all of the content that they've learned. And through introducing global citizenship education, you are now focusing on socio-emotional objectives and developing the values in your students that you want them to have to be a good person. And then you're also developing behavioral domains and behaviors that you want them to adopt in order to help them make the society a better place to live. And I'm really fortunate to now be working in a school that has had a whole school approach to incorporating education for sustainable development into our school system. So last year, I was the sustainability coordinator, and I helped teachers from the pre-primary levels all the way through the baccalaureate to students that are 18, adapt the curriculum to put education for sustainable development and key competencies for sustainability within their units. And one thing that we noticed, we had a challenge, and that was, okay, now we're incorporating the content, we're teaching sustainable development, but what next? There was no action. So this year, our biggest focus has been developing actions. And with our actions, we've realized it's really important that we focus on the local community, because it's not enough to talk about a problem in the bigger world. It's far more valuable for students to recognize the issues in their own local context. We're also an international school, so this serves a dual purpose by helping our students feel like they are part of the local community and that they're not set apart from everyone else. And so we've done this in two different ways. We have the formal education, which is within our classrooms, and we have about 2 units a year where we're working on a more specific project in a local context. I'll provide you with one really quick example. This year, our 12-year-olds, they are going out into the local community after having done a unit on the key principles of sustainability, and they have been linking their mathematics objectives with statistics, with the integrated humanities objectives with sustainability and local governments, with their Spanish language curriculum in order to go out into the community, design a survey, and analyze the survey, and then they're going to write a report, and then the report they are giving to the local government. So then they actually have a local government interaction. And they are very involved and very motivated for this project because they actually get to go outside of the classroom and speak to people. And so even though we have a lot of requirements within the curriculum, it's a matter of putting the puzzle pieces together and seeing where can I fit this in, where can I fit that in. You can address a really content-heavy curriculum while addressing sustainability if you have the time and the training and the teacher support to put those puzzle pieces together. Outside of the curriculum, in our informal education, we've also started a volunteer club. And this has been part of my project with the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizenship. And this is about making students the protagonists so that they are the core change makers of the school. So the idea is within our volunteer club, it's called Volunteer Club, but actually it is a service learning curriculum. So they have different actions that are aligned with the 3 principles of sustainability: environmental protection, economic growth, or social development. And within these actions, we're developing different competencies in the students to allow them to take action. But by making them the center of it, they are feeling empowered that they can continue to grow. So our most recent action right now is they are the ones running an entire campaign for a marathon that we are running for a project called Proyecto Hombre. So that's one example. So
brilliant, thank you, Stephanie.
I don't want to go over time, sorry.
I'm really keen, before I forget, that you must speak to Paulina from the Medellin Challenge before we leave today, because there's a lot of points of contact with your work. I love that idea of the kind of, how do you apply what you're being taught or what you're learning in school to practical, real-world challenges in your local community? And I wondered if you had an example of how students have taken knowledge that they've been learning in school and then used it to address a local challenge or an SDG problem in the local community.
So something that we had at the end of the last school year was we had a volunteer fair. And with the volunteer fair, students went around to 8 different local organizations and they asked them questions. This was for secondary students. And then based on that, they had the opportunity to go out and then develop actions, but it needed to be outside of school. So actually, as a part of that whole process, we ended up having one student who decided that visiting a nursing home once wasn't enough and it wasn't going to have an impact. So actually, over the summer, this student went and signed up and went through a training course, and now she's actually going to this nursing home every single week. And the moms reported back to us, telling us about the different activities that this student has been doing. And she's been learning a lot about how to interact with the elderly. And also, the most important thing that she's been learning is how much these people have to offer us and how much we can learn from these people in return.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that. And so our 5th speaker is Sarah Mamani, who's going to talk about work that she has been leading, supporting both adolescents and young adults and becoming more aware of their responsibilities to the local community and to wider society. Sarah, thank you.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much, Dominic, and thank you for this great event to broaden up all our minds. Well, I'm actually a secondary school teacher, but right now I'm working in adult education with Erasmus Plus project, and I'm also working in youth work with the Muslim Youth Austria. And a few years ago, in 2019 and 20, I had the chance to make a project also with the Ban Ki-moon Center in Austria. It was a mentoring project for women leadership. And I was the mentee of the former education minister, Sonja Hammerschmidt. And we had a little project where we implemented dialogue for young people. And she was just talking about her life, about her CV, because when I talked to her the first time, for me it was very impressing her career, which was not linear at all, but had a lot of diverse steps. And I thought, I think this is actually so beneficial to young people to learn from it. So Dominic mentioned it. For me, responsibility is one of the key factors when we're talking about global citizenship education, because we just can change anything if we can teach the responsibility to all of us that we have the power to change something. So responsibility is one of the main factors, actually. And for me, there's a very important challenge I want to line out. So on 25th of October, the European Agency for Fundamental Rights published a study about racism in school system. And unfortunately, Austria and Germany are the leaders, in a negative sense, of racism in the school system. So when we are talking about responsibility, about global citizenship, about all our SDGs, then we are talking about embracing diversity, right? But racism kills diversity. Racism kills everything we have to share with diverse values, diverse languages, diverse identities. So when racism is such a dominant factor in our school system, how actually can we educate young people becoming changers and makers? So for me, this is one of the main challenges we right now have in whole Europe, but especially, unfortunately, in Germany and in Austria, and to spread fear and hate. And when we think, this study, it was published on 25th of October, and there was actually no political response to it. So it's quite shocking. And this brings me back to youth work, because I think in youth work, we have really the power to change something. And it's our chance to embrace diversity, to give people the responsibility to organize themselves something great. So in the Muslim Youth Austria, it's very important for us to give responsibility to young people, organizing their own events, their own projects, their own caritative projects, climate changing awareness projects, and whatever. And when sitting here together, I think this is one of the main things we should take with us when we're going at home, because it's nice that we're all sitting here and talking about all these beautiful things and then going at home, but actually we do have responsibility to be aware of what's going on in our school systems and what's going on in our youngsters and in society out there. And we just can change something if we just bring this to the other people. So thank you so much for this event today. And yeah, that's the first thing.
Thank you, Sarah. Your talk reminded me, I think one of the most powerful quotes about education is from a German philosopher called Hannah Arendt, who said that education is the point at which we decide if we love the world enough to take responsibility for it. And I wondered, with your work, do you feel optimistic about a shift in values and perceptions? You know, that idea that racism or prejudice is always learned behavior, it's never innate in people. And so with all the work you're doing to celebrate and promote diversity, are you optimistic about the future?
Absolutely. I think actually the power lies in youth and in youth organizations, because youth organizations are so much more flexible than our school system is. As we heard in the keynote before, education is a very static procedure right now. And also, as we heard in the key lecture, transition in society can just happen if we take all the people with us. So I think to take all the people with us, we have to invest in our youth, that finally then they grow up and they will embrace this diversity and all the values.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. And thank you to all 5 speakers. So we're going to hand to all of you now for questions. I think rather than coming to the front, I'll just bring the microphone to you. So who would like to jump first and ask the first question? You can either ask it to a specific panelist or a general question, and they can decide who'll come in. It's always that slightly fraught moment of transition from passive to active. Paulina, thank you very much.
Thanks for all your experiences. My question is for Stephanie. Well, actually, I have 2 questions. One is, how do you make those changes sustainable on time? Because you're that very motivated and very excited, but sometimes it's difficult to keep them working. So that is what do you do to make those changes sustainable? And the second one is, you talk about the change between what you are doing with youth and local government interactions, which is very interesting because sometimes there is a big gap between policymakers and what is happening on the ground. So how is that working?
Thank you. I'll address the second question first, if that's all right. So in terms of getting involved with the government, I think it's far easier to work with the local government than it is the regional or national government. So example, students in a primary year group last year, they wrote letters to their UN representative. They did get a response, but they got a response letter, but then there was no interaction beyond that. However, if you go to the local government and you ask them and send a request, oftentimes you can get a representative to come and speak with you. And you can also organize a trip to go there. Obviously, sometimes it depends on finances, but we've actually used the public bus. So imagine having 4 teachers take 57 students into the town via the local bus, and that's how we've been operating. And so it's been working out relatively well. This is our second time trying this, and we haven't had our local representative come and visit us just yet. They're going to come probably in January, and but I highly recommend finding local organizations, local NGOs, and getting them to come and talk to you. We actually just had a organization that collects food come and visit the students yesterday. Unfortunately, I missed it. And they talked to all of primary and all of secondary. That's around 700 students. And that's going to launch our regular holiday food collection campaign, which this year is being organized by our student volunteer club, whereas before it was organized by the teachers, and the teachers helped organize and choose everything. But now, this year, the students are the ones saying, okay, we have to find people to sign up to go around and collect the food in these places. We need other students to volunteer to go and remind other classrooms that we're doing this initiative, whereas before the burden was always on the tutor. So as for the other question, which was about motivation, I believe, that one's a tough one because it's harder than ever to be a teacher. And so what we have is a multi-year plan because Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't do everything all at once. So that's why last year when we started, our focus was just do what you can. Here's the teacher training. We went through the training. Now you need to develop 2 units. Every teacher, just 2 units. And then they had the freedom to choose in what subjects, what year groups, depending on if they were secondary or primary. Just try. And now this year, we're in year 2 of the process. And this year it's, okay, remember those 2 units you made? This year, let's develop actions. So most of the teachers, naturally, they taught the content, but there wasn't a real action. So this year, the objective is, how can you use that unit you taught the previous year and develop a real action based in our local community or school community? So it's one step at a time.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next question. Question at the back. The microphone is winging its way to you.
Hi, good morning. I have 2 questions, actually. One for Garam John and the other one for Sarah Momani. So, Sarah, I'm going to start with Sarah. And you said a sentence, because I'm taking notes. I work for Salzburg Global, and you said a sentence that how can we preach or teach global citizenship when racism is part of a school system or our culture? But then you also said something around the fact that you're very optimistic, there is change. So my question is, what are some of the concrete actions that you've seen, maybe based on your experience, that supports or backs up this optimism that you have? It could be in policy, it could be in whatever. I would like to hear that. And for Garam, my question for you is, if we notice GCED, some of the loopholes that we've seen is the fact that the system was not designed with young people in mind. So it's a very old, ageism-oriented curriculum in general. But you were very young, so how have you managed ageism culture in that very traditional and age-wise community? Thank you.
Great, 2 great questions. Sarah, are you going to go first?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Very important question. Well, actually, I think that one of the main keys is dialogue and getting to know each other. Because my experience showed me that racism happens when people don't know each other and don't know anything about each other. So the most racist people are people who don't know the people who they're racist against. So I think that one of my experiences, I do a lot of mosque dialogue tours in Linz, and there are coming so many teachers, schools, kindergartens, whatever, and there's so many questions from the people. And when they leave the mosque, I recognize they are like seeing me in another way, because they had so many questions, they didn't know anything about it, and now they know someone who is there and someone they got to know. So I think when we're tackling this problem, we have to go more deep into let's get know each other better and go towards it with a positive way. Because when we're all like, okay, it's so bad, I don't want to talk to anybody, it's just getting worse and worse. Yeah, thank you.
Great answer. Thank you, Sarah. And Garam, the question for you was around how do you find space to innovate in very traditional curricula and structures?
Thank you for their wonderful questions. I really wanted to answer those questions. So I will answer with my experience. And so first of all, Scouts normally the Scouts form a group called a patrol system. Through patrol system, I was able to learn about the role sharing from a young age. And at the same time, I was able to naturally learn the sense of the responsibility and the missions for my role. Also, I think I'm a little bit faster understanding on diversity and inclusion than my other friends. I was able to broaden my understanding of different cultures around the world. And the big factor is because of my troop activities. There are around 6,000 troops in Korea, but I'm sure that our troop have had a special sisterhood relationship with the other country and have a steady international exchange that had a great impact on a troop member. And actively exchanging and sharing opinions with the foreign members of the different cultures, participating in a project to clean the street together, attending events to help the less fortunate, and have a conversation with not only young members, but also the senior leader scouts without any hesitations, providing non-formal education that is really difficult to learn in Korean society. So through scouting, I think I was able to come one step closer to the society where everything I did every weekend was living together. And there are two things that I felt really important while working on so many local projects and programs. The first is the role of the leader. A leader are never born and they're acquired. As a leader, they must guide the member of the organizations to go to the right direction through the proper educations. And they must encourage them to achieve the common goal based on the mutual understandings. And I also realized that the most important thing is to create a fence so that the member of the organization can move independently. And the second is, I think this is really important, the continuity. For all of us to create a better world together, we must constantly communicate and exchange. As if we were constantly turning a cycle, I thought it was really important to lead our future and pass on a good structure to the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Karam. We've got time for one more question. Question at the front. Thank you very much. Strategically chosen to make you walk the furthest distance in the room.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Claudia Koja. I'm a doctoral researcher at the University of Salzburg. I'll try to gather my thoughts, so maybe this is more of a general discussion. We didn't have a chance to have a Q&A in the previous session, but when I was looking at this, two pictures with the cars in the classrooms, I'm like, honestly, I don't see the problem that was supposed to be, stated there. I mean, in the end, even when you use modern technologies to learn something new, what you do, you're in front of a computer. So essentially you're sitting on a chair and learning from someone in front of you. And that's also what we're doing right now. We're sitting here, we're listening to you, we're asking questions. So in a sense, I think that the problem with education is not our classrooms, essentially. It is partly the fact that we need to take our work outside of the classroom, but we also need the classroom. And I think some of you emphasized that as well. But essentially, I see a problem mostly in institutional arrangements and unnecessary bureaucracies. So I think those may really impede some very good initiatives. And I don't know if you've had to deal with any bureaucracies in your projects that were sort of creating hurdles, unnecessary hurdles. Maybe you would want to talk about that. And the second aspect I wanted to touch upon, it's mainly keeping in mind that we're living in a very fast-paced environment. And I don't know the statistics right now, but you have a lot of young people, especially in developed countries, suffering from mental health issues and stress and depression and anxieties about economic insecurities. So it seems to me that because of these anxieties, everyone is kind of trying to get more skilled in many different areas. And is there actually any time for real community engagement? So how to basically be able to address that? And related to this point is also what would be, the basic infrastructure in education that would kind of make it possible to not leave anyone behind. And maybe if you also want to talk something about money and funding, like what actors have been supporting you mostly, where do you find the most of support? Because all of that also needs some sort of financial contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We could do a whole year's worth of programming on this, but thank you. So maybe, Sarah, could we start with you? Sort of a quick example of how breaking down barriers and challenging structures to get this work moved forward.
Yeah, so actually going back to the pictures, I think we all, the ones shared in the main session, to me, actually, the classroom represented more the approach, not the classroom infrastructure. When, teaching is just teacher-led, then automatically we are disempowering students from engaging and also from taking what they've learned outside of the classroom. As for barriers, as a teacher, for me, the main barrier was the fact that there was not the whole school approach that Stephanie, for example, developed and is fostering at her school. So that, for me, was the main barrier, the fact that there was no support from the institution. So at the end, it was all on me, on my motivation and my free time to, bring sustainability and global citizenship into my classroom.
Great, thank you. And Samuel, I wonder if we could bring you on the aspect of community engagement, and with all this focus on the acquisition of new skills, where do you also find time to develop community engagement initiatives with your work?
Definitely, that's very key. Yes, right now we live in a world where we are really bombarded with a lot of problems. So really focusing has been very, very difficult. For me, one thing that helped me to really understand and identify a level where I can actually have more impact in the society. So really pinpointing that, okay, let's tackle this issue. And this has coordination or combination of where it can actually propel things forward. So we're looking at, of course, lighting rural communities. So when we do that, we give the children lights to read, of course, improve the education, and in turn, it makes them to make more better decisions and to save the world. So for me, it's really understanding that dynamics of how things are complicated, really looking at the system together. You also talked about, of course, different challenges into finance, and it's very, very important. Yes, in most of our projects, we need finance to move on, and that is where we really need to collaborate or really search deep into local organizations that could really be helpful. Of course, Ban Ki-moon Center is there helping to give more trainings, education, connecting us to also other donors, agencies. So I think that is very key and important. So just invite youth to be more open, not to be looking at one place, but of course be dynamic and have a global view, and that will really help.
Brilliant, thank you, Samuel. The world has never been richer than it is now, so the money is there. It's finding the right match and the application of those funds, I think, is the big challenge. We are at time. We're going to need to make our way back over to the Schloss. I would like to leave you all with one thought that comes from a Brazilian activist, where he called Roberto Unga, and he has talked about the fact that it is not hope which is the catalyst for action. It's action which leads to hope in many, many cases. And what we've heard from our 5 speakers is some fantastic examples of how anyone can take action, and that can be a source of hope and a great cause for change. So would you please join me in thanking the 5 speakers for their amazing contributions, and we'll then make our way back over to the Schloss, to the Meyerhof, sorry. Thank you.
sunshine. No need to run and hide. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. No need to love or cry. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. The sun's in your eyes, the heat's in your hair. The steam will hate you because you're there. And I need a friend. Oh, I need a friend to make me happy. Now stand here on my own. Look at me standing here on my own again. Up straight in the sunshine. No need to run and hide. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. No need to laugh or cry. It's a wonderful, wonderful life. Oh, I need a friend. Oh, I need a friend. It's a wonderful, wonderful life.
Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Lied. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Beat. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Auf Seite 12, da steht mein Horoskop. Heute treffe ich sie bei Neonlicht und Stroboskop. Bin nicht der Typ, der so auf Disco steht, aber heute mach ich das, was mir Frau Rogers rät. Und dann geh ich rein in dieses Etablissement. Sie stand direkt vor mir und das wusste ich schon. Oh Mann, wie stell ich mir jetzt bloß am besten vor? Verdammt, es ist so laut hier und ich schreie ins Ohr. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Lied. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Beat. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Verschwitzte Menschenmassen reckeln sich und mich. Steig über Scherben, du, ich suche nur dich. Ich kann nicht erkennen, in meinen Augen brennt der Rauch wie eine Marie-Erscheinung. Tauchst du plötzlich auf, deine Haare fliegen im Kreis, du hast die Augen zu. Ich brauch keinen Beweis mehr, die Richtige bist du. Komm, tanz, genau, ich will dich tanzen sehen. Marie, mein Mädchen, du bist wunderschön. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Lied. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Beat. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Lied. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Ich will nur, dass du tanzt zu diesem Beat. Ich will nur, dass du glücklich bist, Marie. Zu viel Flower Power, unbetrunkener Humor. Die ganze Zeit renn ich dir nach und jetzt klebst du mir am Ohr. Du nimmst meine Hand, willst endlich mit mir tanzen gehen, doch Marie, es tut mir leid, ich kann kaum noch stehen.
You know you love me, I know you care. Just shout whenever and I'll be there. You are my love, you are my heart, and I will never ever be apart. So reuniting, girl, quit playing. We're just friends, what are you saying? Said there's another, look right in my eyes. My first love broke my heart for the first time, and I was like, baby, 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 ooh, oh, baby, 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 ooh, baby, 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 ooh. Thought you'd always be mine. For you, I would have done whatever, and I just can't believe we ain't together. And I wanna play it cool, but I'm losing you. I'll buy you anything, I'll buy you any ring, and I'm in pieces, baby, fix me. And just shake me till you wake me from these bad dreams. I'm going down, 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 and I just can't believe my first love won't be around. I'm like, baby, 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 ooh, like baby, 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 no, baby, baby, ooh. Thought you'd always be mine, baby, 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 ooh, like baby, 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 no, like baby, 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 ooh. Thought you'd always be mine, mine. Baby, 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 ooh, baby, 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 no, baby, 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 ooh. Thought you'd always be mine, mine, baby. No, I'm all gone. Now I'm all gone. No, I'm all gone. Jam it. I wanna jam it with you. We're jamming, jamming, and I hope you like jamming too. Ain't no rules, ain't no law, we can do it anyhow. Cause I will see you through. Cause every day we pay the price with a little sacrifice. Jamming till the jam is through. We're jamming. To think that jamming was the thing of the best. We're jamming. And I hope this jam is gonna last. No bullet can stop us now. We neither beg, no, we won't bow. Neither can be but no sword. We all defend the right. Judge our children must unite. Your life is worth much more than gold. We're jamming, jamming, jamming. We're jamming in the name of the Lord. We're jamming, straight from your holy Mount Zion, holy Mount Zion, just seated in Mount Zion, arrows of creation, jamming, jamming what you want. I wanna jam it with you. We're jamming, jamming, jamming. I hope you're jamming too. It jumps above my pride, truth I cannot hide, to keep you satisfied. True love that now exists is the love I can't resist. Jump by my side, jamming and jamming and jamming, jamming and jamming and jamming. Hope you like jamming too. Jamming, jamming, jamming. I wanna jam with you. Well, I'm riding down the road, trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. For the one to own me, to the one who stole me. Once she's a friend of mine. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Lighting up while you still can. Don't even try to understand. Just find a place to make your stand and take it easy. Well, I'm standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed for slowing down to take a look at me. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me. We may lose and we may win, though we'll never be here again. So open up and climb in, so take it easy. When I'm riding down the road, try to loosen my load. Got a world of travel on my mind. Looking for a lover who won't blow my cover. She is so hard to find. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me. Between the eyes of love, I call your name. Behind those guarded walls, I used to go. Upon a certain melody takes me back to the place that I know, on the beach. Down on the beach. Down on the beach. The secrets of the summer I will keep. The sun of time will blow a mystery. No one but you and I underneath that moonlit sky. Take me back to the place that I know, on the beach. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Down on the beach. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Forever in my dreams, my heart will be hanging on to these sweet memories. A day of strange desire, a night that burned like fire. Take me back to the place that I know, on the beach. Down on the beach. Down on the beach. Yeah, yeah, yeah. c'est pas fait for you. Two people living on the edge of life. Are people running out of dreams and time? I can hear it when you tell me so. I can feel it, but I can't let go. Two people gotta stick together and love one another. Save it for a rainy day. Some people gotta stay together and give one another shelter on a rainy day. Two people living in the way we do. Are people trying to keep love anew? What do you say to make some sense of it? What to do to make the feeling fade? Two people gotta stick together, love one another, save it for a rainy day. Some people gotta stay together and give one another shelter on a rainy day. I'll come running to your rescue. You gotta stand by me. There's a lot of love between us. We should never let go. Two people gotta stick together, love one another, save it for a rainy day. Some people gotta stay together and give one another shelter on a rainy day. Two people stick together. Two people shelter on a rainy day. Two people stick together. Two people shelter on a rainy day. If you want me to.
Welcome back. Welcome back, dear participants. Welcome back. Welcome back, dear participants. It's sharp 12 o'clock, so this is great. We can start with the rest of the proceedings before we commence to lunch. There's lots still to do, and I would actually like to draw your attention to graphic recording. Why? Because we have been followed in our opening segment by a wonderful graphic recorder, Sophie Wehmeyer, who drew what the main messages of the opening session was. So to recap, now that all of you have come back from exciting panels, to recap how we started this session, over to you, Sophia Wehmeyer, for your graphic that you have created.
Right, I just need my image. There we go. So, hello to everyone. My name is Sophie Wehmeyer. I'm a Salzburg woman, and I'm a graphic recorder and also a graphic designer. And as you can see, everything that's been spoken today, I recorded live. So basically, I've been trying to pick out the main parts that I could hear and bring them to paper, because when I was a young child, I had difficulties in learning. So I kind of find a way for me to remember things by drawing them down and giving them color and words. And that's how I got to being a graphic designer. So I suppose you're going to get these sheets after the session and the day, so you can kind of pick out the images and they spark off remembrances, and you kind of remember that subject again. Thank you for being here today. It's also very important for me because I'm not only a graphic designer but also a mother of 2 little kids. And this subject is definitely important for them because I would like the world to be a better place. I would like the learning to change and the education. And let's start with all that's been said today. I'll start in the middle because you started off with a nice synonym, which was a canvas, where we can just kind of write and paint down everything how we would like something to be, the aims, the feelings. There was a lot of talk about feelings. We had points where we said we had to take care of the critical thinking. Which aspects do we have to take care of in education? Learn how to change, inspire people. We had a subject on emotional learning. Let's see. The subject of equality, that we are the same. We're all made out of flesh and blood. The subject of what's going on at the moment, the climate change and the rapid technology development. And yeah, let's go over here because I can't really see over there. Also, that we are a team together, the whole world is a team, and only if we share our commitment we can reach our aims. Sorry for moving backwards and forth. Also, what do we want to achieve? We want peaceful solutions. We don't want to fight, we just want to communicate. We want a better future for all. We try to heal the world and give people hope that the world can be beautiful, because it actually is. And then we got to a very good point of the keynote speaker, which I found while I was listening also very funny. It was really good to listen to it. And how do you bring this to paper? His subjects were very much on innovation, which is always an important fact in changing the world. About explaining that how many people are stuck in one situation and they don't have any perspectives, they don't know how to get out of it. The subject on education is the magic key, which is basically the whole subject today. So I liked that saying. And we had subjects on digital transition and how using data can not only be good but also kind of bad. At the end, it was also for me that he said, connect education systems better. Let's all work together, connect each other. And the end solution, ask right questions, but also check the answers. So I put a bit more on here. You can kind of read up, but I hope you understand what I've just explained. Yeah, that's it for me.
So indeed, this drawing will be made available to all of you to recap what you have heard. There will be even another one after the rapporteurs spoke. Because as you know, we have broken into panels. We could not listen to everything that was going on, but to recap the panels and to know what has been said and thought about, we have recruited 3 rapporteurs who had the difficult task of trying to summarize what was said into a kind of structured system. And the system was very much, what are the key challenges that were mentioned and what are key solutions that were mentioned. So we have 3 volunteers who we had approached. One is Markus Frischhut. He's a Jean Monnet professor in the Management Center Innsbruck, and he was covering the panel on policy. We do have Lukas Kerschbaumer, head of Bachelor's Program Management Center Innsbruck, and we do have Audrey Plimpton, Communications Associate of the Salzburg Global Seminar. So a round of applause for them, and I ask the first one to come up to this lectern to give us his insights, which is Markus Frischhut. Please.
Thank you very much. So I try to summarize the challenges and the solutions. One challenge is that I can read my own handwriting because there was a lot of information. So we heard in the first panel that it's about inequalities, imbalances as challenges, and that also some people are left voiceless, and that there is ignorance and closed mind and fear as challenges. And I would also always like to then jump to the solutions which were suggested, which is that we need a collective response, we need great collaborators, and we need shared ideas in this context. We heard from the Minister of Sierra Leone that obviously one big challenge for them is climate change. They're not contributing to the problem, but they're very much affected by the problem. They need to catch up with digitalization. And when we in the morning have heard the concept of to leave no one behind, or the risk of being left behind can not only concern individuals, but also a whole country. And in terms of solution that he has offered was Ubuntu, I am because you are, so this relationship. And talking about solutions, he's also talked about that there's a duty to contribute to solutions. We have also heard more about inequalities as big challenges. Lydia mentioned conceptual challenges, policy challenges, and pedagogical issues. And I think one major point that she made was to make solutions or to search for solutions in technology which consider the needs of the majority. I think that's a very important issue. Then we have heard from the pedagogical field, from Czech, that there are multiple crises at the moment that we are facing in this context, but also that individuals very often are stuck in crises. And he offered a very optimistic solution, so to say. He referred to fun, joy, and feelings as he's very much working with teenagers and children. We've then heard from Willem that the educational system has to be seen in a broader way, so not just teachers and so on. And he has referred to, in the field of digitalization, to the challenges of control and access, so that some might not have access to those tools, but also control if it might be the case that one person can switch off the internet in a certain field. The question is, do we want to be in a situation where a few people have a lot of power? And then when it comes to access, he mentioned it very often, if you navigate through the internet, you are kind of, he didn't use the word, but you're kind of nudged into a certain direction, and he very often feels manipulated. So that was another challenge. He also mentioned scandals in the Netherlands where there was profiling, so that at the end people did not have access to financial resources. And he also pointed out that very much often a challenge against transition is that systems shield themselves with complexity, so that they might be resistant to change, but which obviously is not ideal. He then also pointed out that in this context, we need governance, and I'm working on EU law. This reminded very much of the upcoming EU regulation on artificial intelligence. So there we have governance, and in the morning he also pointed out to the recent document of the White House in this context. I cannot cover all, but it was also mentioned by the Minister of Sierra Leone that we need values, we need respect for the other, and he also pointed out, again, coming back to environmental issues, that we and the environment are one, so we cannot separate it, and we are kind of destroying our own house that we are living in. It was then also pointed out by Lydia that educational systems very often are very conservative. And we have also heard about the challenges of biases. If you remember from the keynote, the Tesla map, first of all, there's bias because the map, or not the whole world was covered, but we also have the challenge of bias in data. So, as you might know, this rubbish in, rubbish out phenomenon. If, for example, you have data about women in the work field, and there's a lot of discrimination, gender pay gap, if the artificial intelligence then is using this data, I always say it would have to be truly intelligent to get rid of this bias. And we have also been talking about weapons, secret weapons, and Jack mentioned that the secret weapons of children, or that this weapon is creativity. So I want to present that as one of the solutions in this context. And finally, I want to conclude what the minister has also mentioned. I think what is very important in this context is diversity. I always experience that the more diverse a students group, the more different views and perspectives you get. And he has also mentioned that before being a minister, and I want to conclude with that, he has been an activist, and he has mentioned that activists have to believe that they can change the future, that change is possible. And I want to conclude with that, summarizing panel 1. Thank you.
Thank you for a summary of panel 1. A tricky task, because so much has been mentioned, and an even trickier task it will be for the Ban Ki-moon Center to put these reflections together into a paper that we will frame as a call to action. We will try our best, but let's listen to rapporteur number 2, Lukas Kerschbaumer, also from MCI, and listen to what the university panel was all about.
You know, so it's always a challenge for the microphone, having an encounter with me, and I really like the idea of having a rapporteur. Maybe I will introduce something like that within our lectures, so be prepared, students. And it's gonna be on a random base, you know? They don't know who will be targeted. So, universities, they face challenges, but we had as well success stories. And I want to start with some short definitions, because the first round came up with some tries to define what is GCED. And it's mostly about, not about content and methods. It's about solidarity, freedom, peace, equity, equality. It is about taking action, opening minds and opening hearts for common issues. And it is about coming to terms, I really like that, with realities we are living in, and the context and forces shaping these realities. So I tried to give each challenge a headline, and at some point I was successful, but then I had to match the solution. So I tried to start with the challenges and switch to the solutions for each point. The first challenge, I named it awareness, knowledge, and activity. So it is not only about providing education, or it's not about getting students enrolled in study programs. It is about keeping them involved. It's about keeping them in schools, because we are not only talking about Western universities, it's about education on a global scale. And we are allowed to enjoy the benefits of education and educational systems we have established. But we can't take it for granted that this was what we have here, for example, is the same and a shared benefit all over the world. So a challenge is to put knowledge to a beneficial task. And now, you know, it's not that easy. I have to switch to my paper 2. And when I'm moving on to awareness and activity and knowledge, some solutions that have been presented, it is about letting students establish curriculum. Why not? Why not asking students what do they want? Involve students in real-world activities. So it's not about teaching, it's not about the university, it's about the community. Making sustainability and values of GCED a shared course for all disciplines. So when you have freshmen, why not giving them one course on those values? Introduce more flexibility into teaching and knowledge transfer. So don't act within organizational frames that might hinder GCED. So it is, GCED should not be a victim to institutional structures. It should help shifting these structures and reflecting on them and improving them. So now, go back, turn around. I wrote this down, yeah? So challenge 2, connecting global and local education. We have heard about issues and problems, challenges in justification for an inclusive global effort in educating students. So not everybody is happy to share his or her spot with international students. Not so much the students, but whatever political system is behind those students. So it should be about educating students and not nationalities. And encouraging interdisciplinarity and intercultural learning is one challenge as well that goes under this connecting global and local education. And we're talking not only about students, you know. We're talking about faculty, and maybe all of you know how challenging it could be getting faculty on board whatever transformation or innovation you want to strive for. And access to education differs widely based on the global context. So structural differences between countries mean that you need different approaches. Switch to second paper. And we had some suggestions and best practice examples on global and local education. For example, try to make university or to introduce international experiences. So you have, for example, double degrees that forces students to get engaged with different systems. You have exchange programs. You need cultural exchange, so you need incomings as well, because not everybody is able to move, to go abroad. So you have incomings and you need outgoings. And, for example, I had this one great example, for example. So global and local systems, they differ. We have the opportunity to send our students all over the world, but not every system is able to do that. So they already struggle with keeping students within the first 3 years or beyond that. So some of those local programs established, for example, a poultry farm to support parents economically to let those to keep students in school. So we need to include a variety of external guests and lecturers to show, for example, by example, that change and innovation is possible. Back then, last point, we have a challenge. The challenge 3, it's teaching. Having to having a textbook on GCED is fine, is good. Somebody needs to write this, but that's it. You need to put it to practice. So the challenge is about connecting global-orientated teaching with local-orientated practical student projects, for example. So we have a global and international classroom, but we have local issues students are working on. So we can't have them to work on international problems at all time. So, and we need them to engage with the community. So, back to solutions and best practices. I really like that because it was very easy to understand. So one member of the panel said, it shouldn't be university, focus on uni, one. It should a pluriversity. It should tackle a lot of issues, and it needs to reconnect with communities. So being able to connect with the problems and issues of the community. So, for example, introducing service learning, where students are allowed and encouraged to engage with communities and getting credits, because it's most of the time about credits. So thank you very much. This was my summary, and I hope a short one.
Thank you for the summary of the second panel. Can you imagine to be in the shoes of Sophie Wehmeyer now to try to draw all of this? Not easy at all. But yeah, we still have a bit of time, but the third rapporteur is up and coming, and we are happy to welcome Audrey Plimpton from the Salzburg Global Seminar to summarize for us what the youth panel was all about. Audrey, over to you. Oh, there you are.
Hello. So, Sophie, your job is not going to be much easier. I have some more to input. So I sat in on the Young Changemakers panel, and there we heard examples from young leaders who are working across countries. We heard from leaders in Spain, Ghana, Korea, Italy, and Austria. And we identified 3 key challenges, and I'm going to try and share those along with some solutions we identified and some best practices that are occurring. The first challenge is that the systems which exist are quite rigid, and even though people are trying to innovate within these systems, we're still stuck in these which were designed in 19th or 20th century mindsets. Particularly in formal education, this becomes an issue. So we identified a solution where teachers can find gaps where they can innovate through both formal and non-formal education. When curriculum and the systems in which they exist are too strict, teachers can take advantage of other opportunities to bring in global citizenship education. We heard a best practice solution where some teachers use, for example, World Earth Day to bring this into the classroom as an example to teach about sustainability to students and share approaches across countries. There is also a lot of power in this, in students engaging outside of the classroom with youth organizations. This is a non-formal education mechanism which they can use. And youth organizations have an advantage in that they're much more flexible than traditional school systems. And students can engage with these to develop these global citizenship skills in a more non-traditional way. These kinds of initiatives empower students to bring global citizenship education into the classroom and equip them with the skills to do so. We also identified that it's important to implement a whole school approach where everybody is invested in fostering change and that this responsibility should not fall solely on teachers. The next challenge we identified is the ongoing racism and prejudice that still exists within many school systems today. In many cases, however, most racist people have had very little contact with individuals who are different from them. And therefore, we can find solutions through global citizenship education initiatives, which allow students to come into contact with people from different backgrounds and bring people from different perspectives together. For example, we heard about a local diversity initiative, such like Muslim Youth Austria, which allows local youths to hear about a culture and a religion that's quite different from their own. And we heard about a global exchange like the Scout Jamboree, which brings young students from across the world together to share experiences in a new place. And the third challenge is the mindset that comes with traditional roles of teachers teaching and students studying. And staying in this traditional mindset prevents innovation. Through these initiatives, which approach education in an innovative way, we can see the power of collaboration that breaks down barriers across countries. We should really focus on making students the protagonists and allow them to change their mindset. We need to give them the responsibility and the role for leadership and enable them to take action for their education both inside and outside of the classroom. They should also be enabled to engage with action outside of the classroom, such as in their local communities. We heard a best practice example of students in Spain talking to community members and submitting a report to the local government. We also heard overall initiatives of how students can break down these traditional roles and how we should continue to empower them to lead action and how adults can empower students to also behave differently. So overall, this interesting panel featured a lot of different ideas, and we should really continue to foster these youth-led initiatives across communities and across countries and try to find gaps where we can empower students to become global citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. You have now heard the summary of 3 panels. I hope that your brain is swirling as much as mine, lots of input. And yeah, dear Sophie Wehmeyer, up to you to do a couple of summary snippets. And I know that you will surely you continue drawing, I guess, even afterwards, before we send it to all of the participants. But over to you for maybe it's just some quick impressions. Yeah.
This one was very difficult. And I actually prefer to then have this sheet and then I can add the images to it later because my brain was kind of over-steaming. I managed it quite well with panel number 1. I quite liked the aspect of being left voiceless, the data rubbish in and out. We need values to respect the others. I always like, in all aspects, we've got the creativity and innovation going on again. Then the diversity and inequalities, which we have actually in all 3 panels. I've kind of highlighted the things that for me were the most important or significant aspects. I really like the pluriversity. I think that's quite an interesting aspect of changing the way of education. Also, they educate students, not internationalities, because we're all alike. Over here with panel 3, that was one where I actually joined you. I've also got some more drawings to go with that one. That it's not only inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. I can then create a really nice image for that one with trees and nature and locals and God knows what. Then the teachers bringing in their own ideas. I really like the aspect because I have the feeling that a lot of teachers are very stuck in the way they have to follow the rules. I have a teacher living next to me and it's very interesting to listen to her. And I like the aspect that teachers can change things by bringing in their own ideas of how they can change education. Also the racism, prejudice, we had that in all 3 subjects. Right, let's have a little look. This aspect here of service learning is students getting a credit for what they're doing. I think everyone likes to have a pat on the shoulder, so that might be a little image that I'll add to it, like someone going like that. We can also pat our own shoulders. And students creating their own curriculum and subjects. That kind of, in some ways it's happening in both of these 2 panels, whereas this panel I noticed was slightly different to these 2, I had the feeling. Yeah, and I just wanted to add in again the technology, that it can also manipulate, not only help, that you should always be aware of this aspect. Quite like the sentence of stuck in your choices, that you can change it and make it joyful, fun, and full of feelings, because our generation is also a generation of feelings and emotion, and I think you can make magic happen by using these aspects. Yeah, I'm going to add a few more drawings to this later, and then you can share it. I'm sorry that I couldn't manage it that quickly.
I think many of us would have been daunted by that task, because it's very much is it the right hemisphere task rather than the left hemisphere task, or even the connection of it? Thank you very much for attempting it and also doing what you did. You will get the final graphics after the conference, definitely, to maybe recapture some of the ideas that were mentioned. This leads us almost to the conclusion of this very first conference on GCED in Austria in this kind of setting. But it would be a fail not to have one voice addressing you that we had the pleasure of already listening to in the panel on policy. And this voice is Jack Davis. Jack is an amazing change maker in his own right. He is the senior program manager of the world's largest lesson, and maybe some of you have already heard about the world's largest lesson. And he's also associated to Generation Earthshot and the Generation Earthshot Prize, which you might have heard about. So Jack, it will be up to you to give us some concluding remarks and maybe some of your impressions. And therewith, the floor is all yours. Round of applause for Jack.
Thank you. Thank you. I have the opposite problem with the microphone. I'll move it down a bit. Thank you very much. That was too much. What an introduction. And it's a very, very big and surprising honor to be here in front of you all. I was honored to be invited, even to come to this space and to share the space with all of you. So, yeah, I wanted to share that honor with some voices of school students, because in 2022, World's Largest Lesson, my organization, we were involved with this UN conversation about transforming education. And we thought we were hearing a lot of adults speaking about the future of education, but not a lot of children, not a lot from the people who are experiencing it, who have the most insight of it. So we did a survey. We reached 37,000 students in 150 countries, all from different backgrounds, contexts, private schools, government schools, rural schools, cities. And we asked them a lot of questions, but the themes were, what do you think of education right now? What do you think of school specifically? What would you like to change? And what do you think the purpose of education is? And that was where we got the really interesting answers, the open box questions. And I think they make a case for why we should give students more agency in how we design education. We have a crisis of confidence, of trust, of belief in our political systems around the world. And in our educational systems too, and that's what these students told us. Above all else, they don't feel school is equipping them with the skills they need for the real world. So, my question to you is, what if we changed the education system to show the rest of the world how it could be done? What if we gave the keys to the students and invited them to co-design the systems that they exist within? So this is a kind of like a collage poem. It's 13 different students' quotes when they were answering the question, what do you think the purpose of education is? And just bear in mind, this is like all the way from the age of 8 to 18. So these are actually children, you know. So, I believe the purpose of school should not only be finding a successful career, but also finding your place in your community and the world. To expand the student's horizon, introduce new people and perceptions, and provide and promote a student's prospects for the future. To help us understand and accept different types of people, ideas, and opinions, to become better people who can live without judging people in a specific way. The place where we can immerse ourselves for better development in each and every individual. The purpose of schools should be to bring a change into the world, embracing all the differences between people and developing a nice society. To teach new generations how they should use their knowledge in order to protect the environment, come up with solutions that could solve world issues, and learn about themselves. Creating independent individuals that can make a change and influence the direction our world is going by being more tolerant, peaceful, empathetic, creative, and also resilient. Instead of a factory to produce workers, schools should promote thinkers, ideators, and doers in capitals. Let people be crazy and curious and create knowledge and new things to generate ideas, organize, harmonize, and develop them. I think schools should be a place where it's okay to fail. Instead of being punished for failing, we should be encouraged for trying. And finally, this is my favorite one. I think it needs to be more fun, because if it's funnier, everybody will be happy. So that's it. The voices of some students to feed into this conversation. Thank you all.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Great poem that you put out there. Last but by no means least, to close off today's conference, I would like to pass the floor once more to Dominique Regester, the representative of the Salzburg Global Seminar. Some of you are venturing into a week of considerations, into a week of establishing friendships and further knowledge. Some of you might leave this afternoon. And those of you who are with us still for the lunch, I'm very much looking forward to networking with many of you. And I do hope that you are using the moment of today to make the most of this experience and talk to very interesting people that are around in the crowd. Dominique, the floor is yours to give us your closing remarks on behalf of the Salzburg Global Seminar.
Thank you, Monica. I think having to follow Jack in any context is one of the worst jobs you can possibly have. And when you're also standing between the audience and their lunch, it makes it even worse. So I will be fairly brief, but I want to first of all come back to the idea of this being an absolutely astonishing time in education policy and practice and research and thinking. In 2022, the UN hosted the Transforming Education Summit, which is actually the first time that we met, I think, Monica. And it was the largest education convening in 40 years. And there were some major drivers for convening in this way at this time. We were coming out of the pandemic, which had shone a light on a wide variety of different inequalities within and between societies. There were also major social justice movements taking off globally, like Black Lives Matters, addressing racial inequality, or like Me Too, addressing gender inequality, that were resonating and echoing in classrooms and societies and communities around the world. There was also a rapidly growing understanding of the way in which the climate crisis was impacting in massively unequal ways on different communities and different societies, and people who had contributed the least to the climate crisis were bearing the greatest brunt of it. And so against this background of profound social unrest and a need for great social change, there was also a major crisis within education, the learning crisis, and that in the majority of education systems around the world, children were not graduating at the prescribed level that they should be at. So what children were learning in school wasn't helping them meet the standard that they needed to meet in order to live fulfilling lives and take their places in society. So the UN convened this remarkable Transforming Education Summit, which has catalyzed now more than 141 national transformation plans. What's been really interesting over the last 12 months is when the first draft of a lot of these plans went in, there was very little attention to well-being and mental health outside of issues like food security and children not being hungry in school. There was very little work around empathy or soft skills or social and emotional skills. And there was very little focus on the broad spectrum of global citizenship skills. That has changed massively in the last 12 months, I think. And at the UN in September this year, the way ministers and other senior stakeholders were talking, all of these things are now central to their thinking. And global citizenship education underpins so much of this. I think it is most easily seen or best seen as both a feature of the process of transformation with all the skills that underpin GCED, like collaboration, like critical thinking, like community building and empathy. And it's also a destination for transformed systems. And we will see global citizenship education much more visible in curricula, in K-12 curricula and in university curricula as we move forward through the rest of this decade and get closer to 2030 and that cutoff point for all of the SDGs. Another way in which global citizenship theory or education supports this process is the idea of voice. And Jack did a brilliant job of bringing student and young people's voices into this. In the panel that I was part of, we had some amazing examples of young change makers really acting as catalysts in their communities and driving change in really profound ways and in a way that hasn't been seen previously. So this has been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to be part of. Thank you to Monica and Dr. Fischer and the Ban Ki-moon Center for choosing us as a partner and in hosting this. And I wanted to finish with my favorite quote from education, which I also used in Breakout Group 3, so I apologize for repeating it, but it's a quote from a German philosopher, Hannah Arendt, who said that education is the point at which we decide if we love the world enough to take responsibility for it. And I think throughout the panel discussions and the wider conversations today, we've seen a massive number of examples of people taking that kind of responsibility and contributing in really exciting ways to building a better tomorrow. So thank you all very much indeed, and enjoy the rest of your time in Schloss Leopoldskron.
Ladies and gentlemen, brings us to a close. Lunch is awaiting you in the castle. There are team members that will guide you. Before we go, team members, please kindly wave, because I do want a round of applause for them who made it all possible. So thanks to the Ban Ki-moon Center, to Salzburg Global Seminar, and of course, again, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea. Buses will leave at 14:30, so please do board your bus. I hope you have checked out. Those of you who are leaving us today, I hope you checked out. Others have checked in, but those that are leaving today, please make sure that the keys are returned. Buses are at 14:30, taking you to the train station of Salzburg. And now it's my pleasure to tell you, let's have lunch in a castle. 13 hours over there.
Strange.